You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
All right.
Well, your camera's off. Oh, there you go. It's on.
What's up?
What's up, my friends?
We are. This might be our greatest feat yet, right?
This is hilarious.
Dividing and conquering here. We got Sunita down in Mexico City by herself.
Yep.
On our anniversary.
Yep.
She's chilling. She's holding it down. And I'm just like, I'm lost over here. I'm a lost soul without her. Don't even know how to turn.
Oh, isn't that sweet? I'm in front of the venue right now, guys.
Oh, you weren't able to get in? Okay.
Not yet. No, I'm waiting for someone to get me in. So I'm patiently waiting outside because there's a big event going on today.
Okay.
So, yeah, we have like all these vendors and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's gonna be
area, guys.
Amazing. Sunita was down there all day yesterday with the venue, working with them. They're being helpful at this point, right?
Yes, very helpful, very awesome staff, and now I'm gonna see them in action here today, so it should be pretty cool.
I don't think they realized how big our what we were trying to do. I think they just thought we were doing a little meetup at first, right?
Yeah, I think so too.
So it was critical that we went back down there to be like, guys. We have people flying in from all over the world. We have at least well over 100 people already that are going to be down here. We need to make sure things are on track, right?
Yep. And it's a good thing we did.
Good responses.
Yeah, so far so good. Let's not jinx it, but so far so good.
How was it with the AV guy? That's the most
pretty great. Yeah, pretty great. Spoke with him. He's aware of everything we're going to be doing, all the 3 days. We had the venue for 3 days, and he's going to get us all the equipment. So everything should be good. Crossing my fingers.
Should be good. Okay. Yeah, they're
it
very
will be
chill.
Great. It will be great.
Dealing with the locals, they're just very chill. Right, we have kind of like the New York vibe, come on, like even the meetup last night, right? Sunita hosted the meetup by herself last night. It kicked ass. I was here remotely. That actually turned out.
We pulled it up.
Yeah.
We ended up. I went there a little earlier. It was at the Bitcoin Embassy bar here in Mexico City. Went there a little earlier. Set up my computer and projector, and we got Doug there remotely, which is awesome. And Doug was having a little panic attack because it was 7 o'clock and no one was really there. But turns out Mexicans just take their time.
They showed up over an hour late.
Some people
showed up at 10 o'clock asking,
10 o'clock.
When are the talks going to start? So it was like, we just finished. Everybody was hanging out at that point. So a little bit of a different culture there than the New York.
Very relaxed, but it's great. It's very relaxing, but they get stuff done. So it's, again, it was very successful yesterday. We were really excited. We had a nice turnout, and people didn't leave till 11 o'clock, really. So
it was awesome that I got to watch in from where I was. I got to see it. It was cool.
Yeah. It was really cool. Yeah, everyone was super nice. Everyone asked a lot of really interesting questions. We had someone do a Monero presentation in Spanish. He was really awesome too. Jasper was his name. Awesome presentation. Everyone really enjoyed it. It was very informative.
Yeah, Jasper did a great job, and he did it in Spanish. Spanish is I don't know, where is he from? He's from Europe.
No, he's not. He's from Europe, but he's here. And he knows Spanish very well.
Yeah, and he has a very good understanding of Monero. He did it so well that I don't speak Spanish, but the little I speak, I was actually able to understand. I was like, wow, this guy knows his stuff. I
He
feel like
knows
I
his
was
stuff.
learning Spanish by hearing him talk about Monero. I knew the concepts he was talking about.
Yeah.
It was really good, and then some really engaging Q&A. People were asking some good questions about like how private Monero is, the coin supply, all that jazz. It was really good, and I think everybody gave you their email or an email at the end to help out with the conference. So we gave everybody that attended the conference a free ticket to the event, in hopes that they will then help us get the word out to schools. So that's been the plan all along, guys. So it's not just it's about obviously getting all the Moneristas there from all over the world. We have all the speakers coming in. We have all the hardcore Monerotopia followers that are coming in. We have all those people, but now we want to spread it out to the noobs in Mexico City. Mexico City, tremendous city. You know, it's one of the nexuses, right? It's crossroads, major city. You know, we got to get Monero popping over there. So we want to create an event that's accessible. So that's what's really nice about this venue too. It's like, even when we do the event, it's going to essentially be open to the public on the day of, because there's going to be a live marketplace that's taking place there, just like the one that's taking place there now today. I don't know if Sunita will be able to show us at some point.
Yeah, I think I will.
That marketplace is going to be all, they're all going to be vendors accepting Monero that day. We're going to onboard them. Obviously, we're working on that. It's, you know, another communication issue, but we're going to be meeting with the woman that runs the whole marketplace, explaining everything, onboarding all the vendors to Monero, probably giving them, you know, whatever, $5-10 just for fun right now, just to like get them onboarded. And then on Saturday and Sunday during the event, the marketplace will be live. So we'll have people that are coming in just because they're aware of this marketplace, and then they'll slowly integrate into the conference. We'll have screens outside of the domes and the other areas that people are paying tickets for. So like people will still be able to like watch and learn. And obviously they'll just kind of, my hope is naturally integrate into the conference. And we'll have an area where we'll have people helping us hand out, you know, get people uploaded to Monero, Cake, you know, good Monero wallets, and sending them, you know, whatever, $5-10. We'll try to get some people to help sponsor that, to give the giveaway, and we'll try to onboard a bunch of people to Monero, a bunch of noobs. So it should be very cool. Did we lose you? Nito, you're good?
No, I was texting with the person that's trying to get me in. So if I disappear, it's because I'm texting.
Okay.
Remember, guys, I'm on my phone.
All right, let's get the show started.
Yeah, let's do this. All right. So if you want to go to brand again. Yeah. Go to brand. And
obviously,
click on the price report segment.
Huge week in price drama. A lot of strange crypto stuff going on. It's one of those weeks where people are like, oh my God, never thought this would happen. We saw USDC getting depegged. Bawdy is going to give us the lowdown. So I'm going to go ahead and do the price segment intro.
Yeah, and then make sure to add him to the stream.
What's up?
I said make sure to add him to the stream.
And I will add it to the stream. All right, everybody, hold on. Here we go.
The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Local Monero. Avoid using KYC exchanges. Buy and sell Monero directly for fiat, peer-to-peer.
All right.
Good job. And you have to add his charts too.
Look at that. And his charts. Why is his charts not connected? Oh, no, here we go. His charts.
There you go.
All right, Bawdy, can you hear us?
I can. I wasn't able to hear the intro to the price report. I don't know if that's just me.
Oh. Huh.
It's possible it's just me.
I don't know.
Everyone that's listening.
Sunita, were you able to hear it?
Yeah, I was able to hear it.
Okay.
Well, no big deal. You know, we can move on. We've got a lot to talk about today. There's we have a lot of technical info and stuff like bonds and yields to slog our way through to understand what's happening with with the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank. So
I have not paid attention to this at all because Sunita and I have had our heads down this week trying to do Monerotopia stuff. What the hell happened?
Well, I was pretty busy myself this week, but if you remember last week, I was saying that I was slightly concerned and to keep your eye on price, because if it starts dipping down below key levels, it'll be time to dip out of the market. And that's basically exactly what happened. We kind of rode this line down here, but as soon as we started to break down, I just dumped pretty much all of my positions except for some of my outlandish YOLO plays on small coins that might, really small cap coins. So those are still in play, but I pretty much dumped everything else. So obviously, yeah, I mean, obviously it would have been better to get out up here at the top than to get down here. But hey, I mean, you save yourself 10%, you save yourself, in other cases, we're talking like 20, 30, 40% drops on some of these coins. Some of them more crazy.
Don't remind me, Bawdy. Don't remind me. I just hold and go along. Jesus.
I've got good news for Monero though. Like, I mean, our chart structure is still holding. We didn't break down through even the short-term interim support line. We basically bounced right off of that. And then the longer-term support line is still well intact. So Monero's looking good. We tend to survive these crashes significantly better. We even saw some positive price divergences happen. In fact, it looks like Binance is presently accumulating a lot of Monero, which is like we've talked about. That's what they do. When price is going down and things are in slow times, they start accumulating so that they can give themselves some headroom later on during pump times, and they can kind of manage the price from getting a lot of visibility. But really, the interesting story here today isn't Monero. It's all SVB. So today I'd kind of like to do this more interactively, because this SVB stuff can get kind of technical. Like I said, we're going to have to slog our way through what are bonds, what's fixed income, what's available for sale, how do these bank balance sheets work, because USDC was exposed here in some part to SVB. They have their funds sort of trapped in there right now, and people are panicking, and so people are basically panic selling USDC for anything else at the moment. So Tether is doing really well, but I'd love for you to jump in there, and whenever something isn't making sense, just stop me, ask some questions, because I want to make sure that the audience really understands what happened here.
Okay. So
I was really busy yesterday, and when I got home and I saw what was happening, I was behind the curve. So I basically spent the rest of the night trying to catch up and understand what was going on. So let's start from the basics. SVB is Silicon Valley Bank, and they're basically the premier bank that Silicon Valley startups use for liquidity. Apparently it was formed at a poker game in the 1980s, and it was supposed to be a place where startups could get better access to capital that traditional banks were not willing to lend. It was too much risk. So a name like Roku is one of the bigger names that I saw that was exposed to SVB. And then USDC had $3.3 billion worth of funds of their liquid cash funds with SVB. They have a total of, I believe it was 8.7 billion outstanding cash with various banks, SVB being one of them. Interesting, Silvergate was also one of them, but I believe they got out of that. This was their latest report as of like January 31st. So basically 3.3 billion would amount to just under 10%, like 7.5% of their total balance sheet was exposed to SVB. So the question is now, are they going to get anything back? And I know that when people hear banking collapse, they envision FTX, everything's gone, it's just totally finished. But that's really not the case. Most of the money does appear to be there. It looks like most people, most depositors are going to be made whole. So essentially, the way that banks work is they have these sort of different types of investment. And there's all these like acronyms, of course, as you can imagine. So AFS, for example, is available for sale. This is basically assets that are backing their balance sheet, that are backing their depositors, and these can be sold. There's also sort of these fixed rate US treasuries that they have, and that's an important piece that we'll get to later. But they had a whole lot of fixed rate treasuries yielding low rates that is ultimately going to have to be sold here probably. The other thing is that they've got just like liquid cash on hand, right? So banks are by law required to have certain amounts of capital to meet depositor demand withdrawals. Now, what happened was SVB had to sell off part of its available for sale, their AFS securities, they had to sell some of that off, which was surprising to some of the Silicon Valley executives because they thought that they were more highly capitalized in their liquid investments than that. So eventually what happened was a run on the bank. There was $42 billion withdrawn from SVB on Friday. So, or sorry, maybe on Thursday. So essentially what happened was they didn't have any more liquid investments that they could just keep meeting these withdrawals. And apparently what I read was that the Federal Reserve asked them to process something like $800 million worth of transactions, and they couldn't do it because they just didn't have the liquid capital on hand. Now, having a liquidity problem is not the same thing as having a solvency problem. Now, it might be that there's a little bit of a solvency problem here, but we're talking like 80%, 90% of the funds, and in worst case scenario, they still have them. So here's where we've got to start talking about bonds and yields. If you remember, we've on the show, we've talked a number of times about interest rates, about bonds, and how the Federal Reserve was raising rates, and we're in a rising interest rate environment, and how that can be dangerous because if you have an old bond, let's suppose you have a bond from 2019, 2020, that's yielding, say, 1.5%, which is about what all the bonds that these guys were holding. They were long-term bonds yielding about 1.5%. If you have a bond that's worth 1.5% per year, but then there's new bonds being issued at 4.5%, which one do you want to hold? Obviously, that's going to be the one yielding at 4.5%. You want the higher interest rate. Mm-hmm. So what happens is you can hypothetically sell that lower yielding bond at 1.5%, but you're going to have to take a hit on that because no one wants to buy it. So you have to offer them a discount. I believe right now it's like 85 cents on the dollar. So what most banks tend to do in this situation is they say, listen, we're just going to hold this bond till maturity. And there's a term for that. I can't remember exactly what that term is at the moment. But they say, hey, we're going to hold this bond until it is completely mature. We're going to collect 1.5% interest. We're not going to sell it and take a loss right now. Well, what happened was so many people were withdrawing from SVB that they had to start selling some of their available for sale securities that was yielding at a lower percentage rate, which meant that they had to write down about $1.8 billion in terms of losses there. So that only spurred even more people to keep withdrawing. When things started getting hairy, the FDIC stepped in and basically took possession of the bank and all the assets. So there's a couple important things here for us to see. That
and Bawdy, wait, just for because I kind of, why did people start withdrawing initially? What was the initial cause of the bank, quote unquote, bank run?
So who knows? I'm sure there's a good answer to that. I'm sorry, I don't really have the greatest answer for it, but people were withdrawing. I think maybe just skittishness. They had to meet a lot of liquidity, but then especially the problem was it's like they kind of hit this tipping point when they had to sell that low yielding long-term fixed rate bond at a loss, and they had to write down a $1.8 billion loss. And then what they were doing is trying to raise capital after that. Said, hey, we're going to offer some more of our stock to try and generate some more capital for short-term liquidity. It does happen all the time. Like companies do this. That was like the triggering moment that a lot of these Silicon Valley executives were like, oh my God, we thought their liquidity was better. We better get out now. The funny thing is that if they hadn't all stampeded for the exit, everything would be fine. We wouldn't be talking about this. Nothing would have happened. I heard someone say it's like cutting off your nose to spite your face, because all of these Silicon Valley executive startups depended on SVB for liquidity, for loans to get their startups going, for payroll, et cetera. But because a huge portion of them just all withdrew their funds at once, now they have to actually sell these long-term fixed interest rate bonds and take a loss on them. And now, maybe there's not quite enough money to make everyone whole. There's still almost enough money. We're talking like 80, 90%. Even if they have to sell all of these fixed rate bonds at a lower value instead of hold them to maturity. But yeah, it was that announcement they made that kind of like, that was the tipping point. So basically it looks to me, so here we have the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. So basically on Monday, all insured depositors are going to get their deposits back come Monday. So that would be anyone with $250,000 or less is fully insured by FDIC, and those guys are just going to get paid out. They're going to be fine. So really the big question here is the uninsured depositors, any amount over $250,000. So we're talking, for example, USDC. Well, apparently it looks like they are going to get, so here we go. The FDIC will give the uninsured depositors an advanced dividend. So a lot of these startup companies are probably going to be able to make payroll. They're going to give them, I'm assuming, right, they're going to be responsible about this and give them enough money to continue operations, enough money to make their payroll. There are a lot of assets sitting on the balance sheet of this bank. And then so after that, they're going to receive some kind of receivership certificate. You know, I mean, it's like the TradFi way of when Bitfinex issued a token for their loss when they were hacked back in like 2014 or 2016 or whatever it was. So the short story here is that it looks to me like USDC is going to get back almost all of that $3.3 billion. Maybe they have to take a haircut of 300 million, 600 million, but that's nothing. So right now they were at $43 billion market capitalization. They've dropped here, but here's kind of the clincher. There is more than 2 billion USDC locked, almost like perma-locked in these, or like deep locked into these contracts like DAI and a whole bunch of other DeFi stuff. That USDC is not going to be redeemed for a long time. It's going to take it would be very difficult to get all of that unwound and actually to try and redeem that for dollars. So basically almost all of the funds that they have locked up currently in SVB, they're not even going to be able to they would be able to meet all of their deposits or all of their redemption requests without even accessing any of that cash. So USDC holds pretty much, so let me see, they hold $33 billion worth of USDC in the form of short-term treasuries, all yielding at 4.5%. So that basically means that within 6 to 9 months, they're going to be able to make up any shortfall for whatever they're not paid back, whatever losses they might incur on the SVB fiasco. They should be able to make that up within 6 to 9 months on just the interest payments on their short-term debt that they're holding, U.S. Treasuries, basically. So overall, this just seems like the market panicking. People hear something, they read a news story. For a while, there was a news story written that made it seem like 25% of USDC was going to be lost in SVB because everyone's got the FTX fiasco fresh in their mind, so they think, well, okay, we're going to lose everything, and so they just bounce for anything. So everything pumped last night. Pretty hard, from shitcoin to Pax Gold to Tether. So for example, right here we've got the market cap of USDC. This is on Kraken right here. So this is the value of USD coin relative to dollars. You'll notice that it's sitting at 0.925 roundabout. And if you remember, we said 7.5%, 3.3 billion is about 7.5% of their market cap. So right now, it looks like the market is pricing as if $3.3 billion is going to be lost totally off USDC. But that's very unlikely. They're going to get probably almost all of that back in the coming weeks. Gemini, for whatever reason, had really big divergences here. They went down to as low as 80 cents on the dollar for USDC. So the other thing that happened is that Tether took a big jump. So you got USDC versus Tether currently sitting about 91 cents on the dollar, or hypothetically, we could look at this Tether versus USDC, and you could see that, wow, God, oh, that's CryptoCap. Hang on, let's find a better source. Let's find a DeFi source for this, if we can. Maybe let's just check Gemini. Or not. I don't know why, but sometimes my all right, we'll forget it. For whatever reason, TradingView is not wanting to be cooperative. But at any rate, Tether pumps like 5%, 10%, in some cases 15% above USDC. The irony to me of this is that it was shown that Tether does not, for months at a time, did not have the backing for their Tether coins at all. And this came out from the New York Attorney General assessment when Tether had to turn over millions of documents. And then the CFTC basically corroborated everything that the New York Attorney General said. So it's crazy to me that nobody cared that Tether basically was unbacked or almost entirely unbacked for large periods of time. And that everyone's just fleeing into Tether without really assessing the situation. Now, if I had been on the ball and not so busy yesterday and I had seen this happening in real time, there's a good chance that I probably would have tried to take advantage of some of these big moves. But when I sat down and I saw everyone was panicking and all this stuff was happening, I said, okay, I'm not making any moves. I'm not going to make any DGoon plays here until I really understand what's going on. And by the time that I was comfortable with understanding what had happened, it was kind of too late to really make any big plays. But if you're a gambler and if you have Tether or you have something else, buying USDC down here probably would end up being a solid, like 8% that you could make when this thing comes back to parity. So this is going to tie into a lot of stuff that's happening next week. It's going to be a big week next week. But let me pause right here and just to see if you have any questions, if all that registers with you.
No. Keep going. It looks like there's like with my original question, what caused the initial bank run? People are trying to figure that out. Some people are kind of blaming Elizabeth Warren on that. So it's just interesting. But yeah, no, I want to hear what happens next. What are the implications for the broader crypto market? Or has it already kind of been priced in? I'm curious where it heads next.
Yeah, that's a good question about what caused this from the beginning, and I think I kind of skipped over that a bit. But we do need to understand that. To understand what's going to happen in the future, we have to understand the kind of risks facing the system. Because the question is right now, well, this Silicon Valley bank just failed. Mm-hmm. Are any other banks going to fail? What caused the original problem with SVB? In my mind, it's a combination of kind of two things. So remember we talked about bond yields. As yields go up, the value of the older bonds goes down. And banks are forced by law to hold very high, they call it, low risk securities on their balance sheet. So the problem was that when they printed all that money back in 2020, a lot of these Silicon Valley executives were taking loans, they were printing money, they were depositing all this cash with SVB. And so SVB had they were just flush with cash. And in fact, that's pretty much was the situation with all banks. They just, they had more cash than they knew what to do with. So what they did is they bought long-term fixed interest rate, and that was all very low yielding. This was before the Fed started raising rates. So the question is, how many other banks have a whole bunch of long-term fixed income or fixed yield instruments that are at like 1.5%, 2%? Because they could also have like a very similar problem on their hands. There are other banks that right now are in question of whether or not they might also have exactly the same problem. One second. Sorry, excuse me. So essentially, what we're looking at here is some slight potential for the rest of the market, for like the broader economy, to start asking questions about other banks and perhaps withdrawing their funds. So interestingly, I don't see USDC as having a solvency problem. I think that this depegging is going to correct itself probably next week, but if not, then maybe into the future. But the bigger problem here, the bigger question is this contagion? Are dominoes going to start falling in the rest of the economy? Is this a Lehman moment? Now, I think the answer to that is basically no, but there is still a risk. There's definitely a risk that people just stampede for the exits, kind of like they did in 2008, which could challenge the liquidity of these banks that would prefer to just hold these bonds to maturity. And if people don't rush for the exits, everything will be fine because they'll just hold these low yielding bonds till maturity. They won't have to write down a loss. By law, actually, they don't even have to write that loss into their balance sheet or into their financial reports because they intend to hold it until maturity. But hypothetically, those still could be forced to be sold if just all of the big institutions decide to just start withdrawing their money, and family offices in America. And if everyone just like immediately loses confidence, like the system will collapse, or it'll get close to a collapse. It could get close to a collapse, kind of like 2008. The difference is, of course, that the bonds backing 2008 were all of these like toxic mortgage debt, and there was no official system like the Fed buying up the mortgage-backed securities as reserve assets. That kind of system didn't exist. So all that toxic debt was on their balance sheets. Right now, they have very high quality debt. Obviously, please don't stone me, the audience out there for calling U.S. Treasuries high quality debt. I'm just speaking in the lingo of traditional finance. So, make that distinction in your mind, and don't hate me too badly for saying it like that. Okay, so there's a lot of high quality debt. It's not all this toxic mortgage debt on their balance sheet. Now, don't get me wrong, they still have MBSs on their balance sheet, but MBSs today are basically backstopped by the Federal Reserve, where in 2008 they weren't. So I think the risk is very low for the economy. I think it's very likely that this should be isolated to a couple banks. So next week is a big week because we have inflation numbers and we have the Federal Reserve meeting. We have the Fed. They gave testimony to Congress this week, and this was kind of like, this is basically what spurred the sort of the beginning of the downfall in crypto. So for example, here's total, and then right around here, that was just like, when I was looking at that this week, and that was exactly what I was talking about on the show last week, that as soon as we start breaking down from there, that's really a bad sign, because it's very reminiscent of what happened over here back in really the same time, almost the same timeline last year, where we sort of had these kind of two support lines. And once you start breaking down that first one, that's usually a bad sign, and you're not going to hold that second one. That's just not how things work. The other thing, of course, being that, let's go to Bitcoin because it's more clear. So here's our FTX doom level, and we bounced off of that. This was great. You know, you see this, you bounce, and you're like, all right, game on, time to go to the top side of the trend. But when you come back and visit that again, that's a really bad sign. So even just breaking down from this meant that you were going to go back down to that level, and going down to this level almost certainly means you're going to go down further. So I hope that people were, you know, on the ball this week, and when they saw that breakdown, I hope that the traders out there were able to get out of their positions and save some cash. I'm not convinced that we've seen the end of this, but I personally want to see more clarity. I want to see, so right now the Federal Reserve had their I think it's a biannual meeting where they talk to Congress. Jay Powell talks to Congress. And essentially they said, hey, we might have to raise longer. We're going to have to raise for higher, which they've kind of been saying all along, but I think maybe they were taken more seriously this time. So the market priced in a 25 basis point rate hike for Wednesday next week. Or that's what was priced in. But then after the testimony to Congress, the market priced in a 50 basis point rate hike. So essentially the market was readjusting to expecting to having higher rates. And again, this also weighs on that whole problem with the yields that we talked about, where these banks and these institutions are holding lower yielding debt as part of their balance sheet that is now becoming less valuable as rates go up. So maybe we should take a look here at the 10-year yield as a good example. Now, what's crazy about all this is that, you know, we were kind of holding steady here. The 10-year yield was basically trending sideways. And then with everything that happened on Friday, people start panicking and they worry about how this is going to affect the markets. So what they do is they start selling stocks and they start buying bonds, which causes this massive drop. Because again, if you're the United States government and you're selling bonds at, say, 4%, this area right here, and suddenly everyone wants to buy your bonds, there's a huge amount of demand. You're like, well, wait a second, I don't have to pay you a high interest rate. Everyone else wants a bond as well. I'm going to lower my interest rate so I don't have to pay you as much money at the end of the day. So when people start buying bonds, the interest rates go down. And that's basically what happened. People were scared. People were stampeding for the exits. If we go over here to the S&P 500, you can see that we basically broke down the bear market resistance line, which had turned into support for a moment, and now we broke that down as well. So overall, what we're looking for next week, the ideal, so there's kind of like two situations, two extremes, and everything in between that could happen. On the ideal case would be that on Monday, FDIC reassures everyone and they start giving money back to USDC and to all of these Silicon Valley startups, and they can make payrolls, and everyone breathes a sigh of relief and say, okay, everything's contained. And then the inflation numbers on Tuesday they come down significantly. And then the Federal Reserve says, no, we're not going to raise 50 basis points. We're just going to do 25. That would be like sell everything and get into the market. Maybe even the Federal Reserve reassures the market, hey, we're not going to let anything terrible happen. We're going to make sure and backstop no matter what happens. The economy's going to be fine, guys. We've got you. If that kind of thing happens, then the markets are going to go off to the races. It doesn't matter that we just broke down these key support lines or anything like that. Like you'll see the S&P just take off. You'll see crypto take off. That would be like our perfect ideal situation. That would be like, you'll see it coming. It'll happen. You probably won't catch the perfect bottom, but you'll be able to get in within 24 hours. And we should all have nice gains and celebrate with champagne and darknet drugs or whatever is brought to the Monerotopia. Just kidding. Don't bring any drugs unless you share.
Just buy them there.
Yeah. Okay. So the other side of this, the other like end of this spectrum is if Jay Powell comes out and he's like, yeah, well, we've still got inflation. It's bad, right? Maybe the CPI numbers come out higher than expected. And then Jay Powell's like, we got to raise 50 basis points. And hey, SVB, you guys are on your own. And then we start finding out that other banks have a similar balance sheet, and then people are getting scared. Like that would be like a doom kind of scenario. Everyone would start panicking, and we'd see just crazy crashes of the stock market. Probably we'd actually finally make this my old target of the pre-COVID highs, right? Maybe we could just like spike all the way down there, and then we'll have like some threat of a systemic event, and then the Federal Reserve will have to come out and they'll have to act eventually. They'll probably do it, at some point later, and then And then that would actually be the start of a new bull market, to be honest. If they have to pivot, if they're forced to intervene to save the markets, that probably is the start of a new bull market. So it's almost like things, this SVB event could be sort of forcing things to come to a bit of a head here. But if we don't get either extreme, right, if neither of those extremes plays out and we get something in the middle, we could just kind of trend sideways and things could just sort of, be a little bit boring. Maybe things trend down for a while. I personally, I'm not a buyer down here. I look at this and I think to myself, there's too much uncertainty. I have some nice gains from back down here. I managed to get out and keep a decent portion of those gains. So I'm just going to wait. I just want to see clarity on what's going to happen. There's going to be plenty of time to get into the market. There's probably going to be a lot of volatility associated with these events. As we've seen, people tend to be very reactive. So that's, to me, that's the way to play this thing. You just want to keep your head screwed on tight. You don't want to be making rash decisions in the moment when you're not quite sure what's going on. Usually that's how you can end up losing money. Every now and then, I have some friends last night that they were all about it. Like they were like, nope, I'm dumping USDC. I'm jumping into the shit coins. Everything's going to go up. And they made a pretty penny last night. So good on them. Good on anyone that took advantage of that. But, I think next week we should get some clarity and hopefully we can go from there.
All right, man. Non-stop action. This is fun times for you, Bawdy, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to do other things and live life and not just be stuck to a chart, but this wasn't the right week for trying to do that.
Yeah. Shit, man. So not to simplify this too much, but
by all means, please.
How far down do you think we could potentially go in terms of the entire market? Can we get back down to what we thought was the bottom, a couple of months ago?
Yeah, that's entirely a possibility here. If fear takes hold, then it's totally possible that we could go back to these lows down here. If people are withdrawing from banks and we see this as maybe being a systemic event and the Fed doesn't tell us the things that we want, they're like, well, we can't stop raising rates or we can't lower rates because the inflation is too high and it'll just be worse. And I'm sorry, markets, but y'all are just going to have to deal with it. Perhaps we could go down to some pretty low lows.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, then you think it'd be a very long haul back up, or it would be kind of like a whiplash moment where it's like we go down.
I think it would be kind of whiplash. It might be, we might go down and then wait, and then eventually some kind of intervention has to be done because the markets are looking too bad. Because that's the thing, we can't, the system cannot go into a deflationary spiral. That's the worst of all outcomes. It would be better for us to have to deal with 10% inflation for the next decade than for the system to go into a deflationary spiral. And the people that run the system know that. So they really, they'll choose inflation over a deflationary spiral any day, and they always have, and they always will. So here's a quick look at the regression analysis. So obviously, we've talked about this many times before. The red line is sort of the absolute, lowest possible low. BLX is always kind of a day behind, if you will. They're slightly behind because we won't get the price action that's happening right now until the close of business today. But right now, that regression would sit at 15,800. So it would be a hell of a thing to hit that regression right now during, amidst all this turmoil. That's probably a pretty good buy point. It's statistically a good buy point. So if you miss this pump, you probably have an opportunity to get in here. The other thing to think about now, let's get back to principles. Right? Let's talk about what's really important. If we've got this whole banking system that's failing, right, and there's all this crap going on, and you're holding a sovereign asset like Monero that no one can take away from you, and as long as people are running the network, right, as long as there's a few guys with a CPU out there and an internet connection, this thing will keep on going. So, and it'll come back. If the markets come back, Monero comes back with it. And if the markets don't come back, and we still have a network, that's useful. So,
yeah, it's pretty ironic that crypto is crashing as we're learning how broken the traditional money system is, right?
Yeah, it's like this I don't know, this push pull from both sides. It's well, we're kind of dependent on but crypto is kind of dependent for price on the system, but then at the same time it's a sovereign asset, so maybe it's better just to hold crypto. And So that's kind of why you saw this big crash, and then people were like, well, no, wait, the money could be failing, so let's get back into Bitcoin, let's get back into crypto. The same thing happened with gold, actually. So, I mean, obviously, during tough times and times of uncertainty in the banking system, people want to hold gold, right? You want physical gold because you know that thing is valuable no matter what. You know you're going to at least preserve your value, if not more. So gold took a big bounce. In fact, gold was probably one of the better performers overall as a sector in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think if things really start to get crazy in the traditional fiat world, there will be a capitulation point where people say, all right, I'm going to crypto because everything's so screwed.
Yeah.
We have yet to see that, right? Really? Like you said, there's been moments, but for the most part, when the broader market goes down, crypto goes down with it. It hasn't really untethered itself in any real way, I'd say.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So maybe we can take a little bit of history analysis on gold to understand how this dynamic works. So gold is also kind of correlated with the rest of the markets. Let's go back to 2008. So this is the weekly candles. And you can see that in 2008, gold basically took a quick dip, but that's because when people need liquidity, they smash the sell button. Like they might have to put up margin so they don't get liquidated on their margin accounts. They'll smash the sell button on everything, including gold and crypto, to meet that margin requirement. So then you'll see a big crash with the rest of the market. But because gold and crypto have this kind of like underlying value, that floor happens a lot sooner than other markets, and then it typically rebounds pretty quickly. So that's the kind of action, like if we saw this turn into a broader systemic event, you could probably expect Bitcoin, crypto in general to crash and have some like crazy March 2020 spike down. But that's a massive buying opportunity. If that happens, if we get some kind of fundamental systemic event, you need to be buying crypto and gold to an extent, hand over fist, because that's your opportunity.
Right. It's going to bounce back much harder than the broader market.
Yep.
All right, man. Exciting as always. Yeah, we'll leave it here. We got a lot more show today. If you could stick around, Bawdy, please do.
Yeah, I will.
All right, cool. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Doug.
All right. Okay, we will move on to the dev report. Let me get that going.
And now for the Monero Development Segment.
Okay. Let me add DGoon here. People in the spaces, were you able to hear that our little cheesy intro? I'm just curious if it's working on our end. Just give a thumbs up in the spaces. I don't know. People are slow. And by the way, if you're in the spaces, all right, we got a thumbs up. It's more fun to watch it on YouTube, but we like to broadcast it on Spaces, and then we'll jump in the Spaces at the end to talk with everybody. I see Mano Crypto is in there, so I'm very tempted to jump in the Spaces. Always love talking to Mano. DGoon, what's going on, man? I don't know what you're looking to cover today. Are you covering the Rucknium stuff? What's the
I was just gonna do just a quick overview of Seraphis and the address updates.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. I was looking for something to be as relevant, but unfortunately, I can't be exciting as a possible bank run. And
well, no, because there was some big dev news, right? Monero transaction confirmations are now 60 seconds faster. I don't know if did you see that one?
Oh yeah, that's really cool. That actually transpired like basically I think like the fix went in like a month ago. I think that this is like the culmination of it.
Yes.
It was really cool.
It's kind of old news, I guess, but it's getting attention now. But yeah, jump into these broader topics, man.
Oh yeah, I just want to give some good news. So I thought it on Thursday, so I wish we could talk about that a little bit if you want to.
I'm sorry, talk about what?
The confirmation time stuff. I saw that last night. Yeah, I saw that last night. We can talk a little bit after.
Do your report, because then
okay.
we'll mention it in the news and whatnot. But yeah, if there's anything you have to say on it, by all means. But go ahead, do it. What you prep for.
Oh yeah. Sunita also said I want to check your phone also, and I have my slides here? How do I?
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, your slide.
Oh, Doug,
slides
you have
up.
to add it on.
There you go.
Yeah, you gotta. No, you put Bawdy up.
Shit. Sorry about that.
We gotta add his.
Boom.
There we go.
This is why we
There we
need
go.
Sunita. You know, I can't run the studio.
No, you got this. You're figuring it out.
Nita, how's it going over there? Are you in the venue now?
Yeah, I'm in the venue now.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm like kind of walking around.
They're setting up
I
the
didn't want to
marketplace.
interrupt. Yeah, they're setting up the marketplace. It's really cool.
How do
I'm
I
just
make
waiting
you
for.
the main screen?
I don't know how to make me large.
Okay.
Oh, it's the layout. You can use the layout.
Okay, use the layout. Well,
There's a
we'll
layout
let
for it.
DGoon take it
Yeah,
away,
yeah.
and we'll
I
come
can
back
talk
to you
after.
for
Yep.
the live report down at the venue.
All right, sounds good. Take it
Enjoy.
away.
City just chilling over there. Go ahead, man. Take it away.
So I want to give some good news. So I want to talk about some of the Monero wallet upgrades we've been experiencing, or we will experience with the Seraphis updates. So I just want to give some good news, given all the markets being down, to show you that Monero is still working. If the markets are down, markets are up, so the work still continues. And pretty much everyone's heard of Seraphis. I hope you have, unless you've been living under a rock. It's a coming Monero update. It's planned to be integrated soon. I don't want to put a date on that, but I think I've been hearing 1 to 2 years. It could be longer than that, so don't hold me to that. But basically, Seraphis, a quick overview of what Seraphis is a complete restructuring of the way we model Monero. So basically, it's an innovative way of looking at privacy coins in general and defining the protocols around them. So with Seraphis, we're going to have some of the same building blocks. They're just going to be structured in a way to make them more interchangeable. And hopefully this will set the way for us to adopt zero-knowledge proofs in the future for hiding the sender information and things like that. So it's like a pretty much not a deep rewrite, but I would say like a deep restructuring of how we model Monero. And there's a lot of stuff going on with it. So today I'm just going to focus in on Jamatis, which is basically going to have some really innovative things going on with View wallets update. So it's going to be really cool and pioneering way in that. And right now, if you use Monero, you only really have one kind of View wallet. And if you use Monero with a hardware wallet, you might notice, but in order to actually view an accurate balance on your account, you have to plug your hardware wallet in and then upload some information to the wallet, which is not a big security risk, but it can lead to, it's very clunky and can lead to some security risks. Since in order to see your actual balance, you need to have your hardware wallet. Like if you have a Bitcoin View wallet, right, you don't need to have any of that. You don't need to plug your wallet in. You can just pull up your phone and check your View wallet. Let's say you were out and about and you wanted to check your cold wallet at home. You can't really do that. You actually have to have your hardware wallet with you to get an accurate balance, which is not ideal, right? A View wallet is supposed to be offline, or View wallet is supposed to be a hot wallet that is super secure, and the cold wallet is supposed to be separate. Mm-hmm. So the new update to Jamatis will, and this is a lot, is actually Monero's the only wallet to do something like this. Jamatis introduces different tiers of View wallets. And once again, I want to iterate, this is, I haven't seen it implemented on any other cryptocurrency. So it's actually cutting edge way of looking at things.
I just want to say we're gonna have Co down at Monerotopia, obviously talking about Seraphis.
Yeah.
And then we have Justin Berman will be talking about Jamatis, which is
yeah. So y'all should go to the show. Definitely go to the convention. Those people are heavy hitters in this space. They're the ones that actually, I believe, writing the papers I'm speaking on. So
yes.
Complete experts, awesome people. But just to give you a quick overview to sort of hopefully get you hyped for that.
No,
the way this will work is that you have different tiers of View wallets. You can imagine as we get closer to the bottom tier, you have a master wallet, and that sort of works how you think of a wallet today. It can spin, it can view all transactions, etc., etc. But then at the very top tier here, you have a wallet that can generate public addresses for you, but can't actually see any outputs or any information about that address, which is really cool. I believe that's currently possible today because most View wallets can also see the outputs going in. And once again, I want to iterate, this is something new that I haven't seen implemented in other cryptocurrencies to my knowledge. So it's really cutting edge and really cool stuff. And as you work your way down the tiers here, you get more power and less privacy because you can have a wallet on the find and receive tier where they can recognize all your public addresses and see your outputs that's sent to you, so you can see your balance, but you can't see things that were sent from you. And as you get progressively down more, you get more powerful. And it's really cool. You can build out some really cool things. You can imagine that in order to accept Monero, you can simply give your the highest tier here, you give that to someone instead of giving your address today. And that offers you a lot more privacy. That way you can make a payment. You can accept Monero payments and not have the person who's helping you accept Monero payments be able to see anything about your outputs, which is really cool today.
Yeah, it makes for really good like vendor use case, right? So you
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, today we're pretty blessed. Things like Cake Wallet allow you to get a full node running, so we're not as dependent on light wallets as we used to be. But this is going to completely the stuff we're going to see out of this is going to be really cool. And I honestly haven't quite wrapped my head around what they will be viewing or what will happen. And then there appears to be hair on the screen. Am I the only one seeing that?
Where did that get? Wait,
Oops, I was playing around with something. I pressed, oh no, it's done. How do you remove it? Shit. This is hilarious. Oh no.
So we got some live antics.
Yes, you do. Oh, there you go. Now I removed it.
Well, now Doug's gone. What you do with Doug?
Yes.
Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that?
I think we clicked on. I don't know who clicked on it. It wasn't me. Brandy like clicked an old.
That was the hair from.
That was the hair for Halloween like 2 years ago.
No, what are they called though? What is that? Those two dudes.
Island Boys.
The Island Boys.
Island Boys.
Yeah.
But
Can we get the Island Boys at Monerotopia? I think at this point they've they've plummeted to zero, like a shitcoin. I don't think they're really around much. We might be able to pull them from Monerotopia as special guests. Island Boys over there. Sorry, man. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, you're good. So basically, what this means, as Doug hinted at earlier, is you'll get some really good adoption from it'll make it easier, more secure to accept Monero, which is always good for the market. You'll get faster sync times. You'll get better privacy. You'll also get some really cool multi-signature ability. And I just want to add that there are 7 design variations. So the development is still ongoing. So if you're really interested in this stuff, there's literally a meeting, I believe, like once a week talking about this stuff. And you can find it if you Google Monero Seraphis Wallet Workgroup meeting. There's literally like a meeting a week where they discuss these things. It's really cool to watch people like Doug mentioned, like Justin, the experts talk about these things in an open chat room. It's really, really innovating. And that's pretty much it for the updates on the dev section.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we really realize what we're in for, right? That the changing of addresses is going to be quite impactful, right? Deprecate the old addresses. So if you have an old Monero QR code, like for example, gratuitous, right? We put the QR codes on our bags of coffee that we sell, so people can tip. Those are going to be deprecated, right? We're gonna have to create new addresses. So old. I mean, it's good. It kind of clears out old existing, right? You really don't want old crypto addresses out there. Granted, Monero uses stealth addresses. But good practice really isn't to have old addresses sitting out there on the internet that people are engaging with. But there is going to be that transition period when old addresses are deprecated and people have to move to new ones. Obviously, anybody that's running a wallet like a Cake Wallet or the GUI, it's going to happen seamlessly. Your private key isn't going to change, right? None of that's changing. But the way addresses are created, and so addresses that were created previous to this change will be deprecated. Receive addresses.
Yeah, and I think that some people see that disruption as bad, but I think if you look at the history, like Zcash has a really bad problem where they can't get rid of ClearNet addresses, and it pretty much ruins the privacy of their network. So the fact that Monero can do this is amazing. We can just be like, you know what, this isn't good for privacy. we need to use the new address types. And these new address types are going to be so powerful. So it's definitely worth the trouble of upgrading.
Yeah, and it's going to lead to some really interesting use cases that I don't think people even realize yet. Like we're saying, like with point of sale systems, right? So where, you know, the private keys don't need to be nobody would have access to your private keys, and point of sale system can work in a very seamless way where those using it can view and see things, but without having access to the funds. Granted, there's ways to do that now, but it's just not in a very user-friendly way where people can easily program systems like that. But once Seraphis is implemented, my understanding, it'll be much easier to do those things with these new view keys.
Oh yeah, it's gonna, like I said, big adoption make it so much easier to accept payments, which is so good. And then, like I said, I want to iterate. No other wallet has this ability yet. So as far as I know, this is cutting edge Monero technology, and it's really beautiful to see.
Awesome, man! Thank you so much. Apologies for the.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
All right, wouldn't be Monerotopia without it. But I gotta say, we're doing better than I thought, considering Sunita's not in the studio right now. So
you're doing great, Doug.
if it was to us, I'd hit the clap thing, but I don't even know where it is.
You're gonna put it really
all right, I'm even pulling that off. All right.
Yeah, there you go. Good job.
Thank you so much, man. Stick around if you can. There's a lot more content ahead. We're gonna try to run through the news. Tony's not here, but I'll be doing that. And Sunita, what else do we got? Who else do we got? Do we have anybody? We have a special guest?
It's me.
It's you?
It's me.
All right. Sunita is... Hold on.
I'll be after the news.
Oh, you're gonna come after the news? All right.
Yeah, I think after the news.
All right. Let's check your real quick right now. Put your camera on.
You gotta remove
Oh, yeah.
Let me see.
Okay.
All right, can you remove your screen? There you go.
Yep, he's got it.
And I'm gonna remove you from the screen. And then if you want to make me, does that work? Oh, no, that didn't work. This is all I got right now. Can you make me?
Yeah, hold on. Solo layout. Boom.
There you go.
Look at me.
All right, guys. There's an event going on right now. So
beautiful video.
Yeah, it's like an arts
awesome.
festival. Yeah, it's like an arts festival. Right
what
now.
time does it start?
It starts at like 10.
So guys, check this out. Anybody that's in the spaces, you might want to check it out. This is the venue. It's beautiful. It's really nice. So they have little festivals like this pretty much every weekend. This is the marketplace. Very cool. So this is going to be the feel of Monerotopia, guys. Except all the vendors are going to be accepting Monero if we pull it off, and I'm certain we will. We will. It's going to be that integrated into the conference itself. This is awesome. You want to show them the dome? And yeah, obviously the hope is the vendors will, in addition to selling handmade items and things like that, they'll also be selling food. I'm hoping we'll have a mezcal vendor there. Maybe we'll have a local marijuana distributor. There's different laws over there than there are here in New York City. Now it's legal in New York, but I'm told they've had actually like marijuana conferences or events at this venue. So somehow they pull it off. So we might have some interesting vendors in that respect as well. So that'll be cool. Oh wow, look at this. Fresh honey and vegetables. Oh, wait, stop. I want to see that for a second. Look at that. That looks delicious.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome. So, guys, if you have an Airbnb, you'll be able to buy your fresh fruits and vegetables and eggs and go back to your Airbnb and cook it. You buy it with Monero. I mean, you can really do it right if you come down. We'll be here for you. This is cool. And this is the dome.
Yeah, this is the dome. I don't know. Let's see if I can walk in, guys.
Sick. And yeah, inside the dome that will be the main stage. This is where we'll have the main stage. It's really nice. It's beautiful. It's not too big. We can fit probably 100 people in there, but we'll have spillover. We'll have large screens outside throughout the venue, so you can be on the other side of the venue and, you know, watching the presentations, so you don't have to sit in the dome the whole time. Be out chilling, drinking a coffee, drinking a mezcal. This is cool.
That's the entrance over there.
Yep. All right.
Showing you everything, guys.
Nito, should I jump to news and then we'll come back to you?
Yeah.
You want to see if you can get one of them to just like give a literally like a 5-minute talk, like where you just ask them to tell us about the venue, because it is an interesting story.
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah, definitely.
I'll do the news.
They're running this event, so it's a little difficult to find them.
Yeah, but if you could find Jessica or whatever, you tell like literally just like a 3-minute pitch on what Puerto Roma Verde is, you know.
All right, take it away.
I will take it away if I can take it away.
I'm gonna remove myself.
Okay. Hold on a sec. I'm going to try to share a screen here. Sorry, guys. I'm not too savvy with this. Okay. Before I do that. All right, let me play the news segment.
The Monerotopia weekly news segment is sponsored by iVPN. Use a VPN to help prevent your online activity from becoming a permanent record. iVPN encrypts your data and DNS requests so your ISP or mobile network provider cannot monitor or log your online activity. Purchase an iVPN service today anonymously with Monero.
I'm going to try to... DGoon, are you still around? I'm going to bring you back up if you don't mind. Or Bawdy. Maybe you guys can participate in the news. But I don't see you guys really... looks like you're off screen right now. Okay, I'm going to get the news up here. Give me 1 second, folks. All right, I think we're sharing. You're sharing. Okay. First story. Yeah, we're full screen right there. Yeah, we're sharing. All right, sorry guys. Sorry that I suck at this. Normally Sunita's here. Okay, a lot of news stories. Tony isn't here, so I actually really haven't had time to take a good look at them, but so I'll be learning the news with you guys. So first story, Pakistan banks agree on blockchain-based KYC system development. The blockchain national eKYC banking platform aims to strengthen anti-money laundering capabilities while countering terror financing. So Pakistan, the Pakistan banks are putting in a national KYC system, it seems like, for blockchain. How exciting, guys. Luckily, we Monero, right? We're not planning on using the Pakistani banking crypto banking system. The Pakistan Banks Association, a group of 31 traditional banks operating in Pakistan, signed off on developing a blockchain-based Know Your Customer platform. On March 2nd, the PBA signed the project contract to develop Pakistan's first blockchain-based national KYC banking platform. The move aims to strengthen anti-money laundering capabilities while countering terror financing, an initiative led by the state bank. So they're using the technology of crypto to better improve tracking and tracing of transactions for the proposed purpose of countering terrorist financing. Will it accomplish that? Sure, potentially. But what else will it do? It will track and trace everyone's transactions. This is something most of those, I would say, in Monero fear, and why we're so passionate about Monero. We don't want to live in this dystopia, kind of a one world government where all transactions are perfectly tracked and traced. But there is a portion of society, a very strong and powerful portion, that is trying to push us all in that direction. This is just the latest example of that. The member banks included international establishments such as the Industrial Commercial Bank of China, Citibank, and Dutch Bank. More of the blockchain platform will improve operational efficiencies, primarily aimed at improving customer experience during onboard. So isn't that nice? Our customer experience will be improved. Pakistan-based the Ivana Group has been tasked to develop the blockchain-based KYC platform named Consonants, which will be used by member banks to standardize and exchange customer data via a decentralized and self-regulated network. However, the customer details will be shared based on consent, allowing banks to assess existing and new customers. Joining other countries in the race to develop a central bank digital currency, Pakistan recently signed new laws to ensure the launch of a CBDC by 2025. Crazy. The SPB will issue licenses to electronic money institutions for CBDC issuance. These landmark regulations are a testament to the SBP's commitment toward openness, adoption of technology, and digitization of our financial system, said Deputy Governor of SPB. Yeah, man. So it's more of this same news. Their CBDC is scheduled to launch in 2025. We're already seeing test nets up around the world. Some of them are already launched. We haven't seen great adoption in Nigeria. But, like I've said, my pushback there is, yes, we're not seeing, the plebes in Nigeria jump onto the CBDC system yet. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. The way these things are going to work is people are going to be funneled into these systems through coercion and force by the government. They're going to slowly turn the screws, and they're going to force people to onboard. Next story: Iran completes a pre-pilot phase of central bank digital currency. Here you go. So they just had their pre-pilot phase. The Central Bank of Iran progresses with CBDC development in anticipation of a visit by the Bank of Russia's governor. Iran is moving forward with its central bank digital currency plans, completing preliminary research for the launch of a potential digital rial. The Central Bank of Iran has completed a pre-pilot phase in the development of Iran CBDC, according to an official statement by CBI's research arm. Head of CBI Office for Supervising Payment Systems announced the news at the 9th Annual Conference of Electronic Banking. He noted that Iran's central bank plans to increase the scope of the CBDC pilot in the country's payment system, but doesn't want to rush its implementation. The pre-pilot phase ended successfully with valuable achievements. The project will soon be launched in other ecosystems and will be used by more users. So here we go. They're trying to onboard people. The executive pointed out that the rules governing a potential digital rial will align with those established for the rial banknotes. Mani Yekta also noted that a digital rial would be distributed among individuals and banks, with the CBDC infrastructure recreating some blockchain features. Mani Yekta reportedly said that 10 banks in Iran have applied to join the digital rial project. Banks like Bank Malil, Bank Malata, Bank Tajarat were involved in the experimental phase. All banks and credit institutions in Iran are reportedly expected to start offering electronic wallets for using the upcoming digital currency. Wow, all banks in Iran are reportedly expected to start offering the electronic wallets that are going to allow people to use these CBDCs. As previously reported, the CBI started planning to launch the CBDC pilot in January 2022, following years of initial research since 2017. The regulator, when we were talking about it back then, it seemed like it was so far away in the future, right? That we may see these things, CBDCs. It was theoretical back in 2017 when they were tinkering with it, but here it is, guys. The regulator reportedly started rolling out a CBDC pilot in September 2022, aiming to improve financial inclusion and compete with global stablecoins. Oh, so it's all because they want to make it more inclusive, guys. That's why. It's not that they want to track and trace all our transactions and can perfectly control the monetary system. It's they want to make a more inclusive system. I'm being sarcastic. Iran's digital rial project called the crypto rial is pegged to the national currency. the Iranian rial at a 1-to-1 ratio. The digital currency reportedly runs on a platform known as Borna, which was developed using Hydra Ledger Fabric, the open source enterprise blockchain platform established by United States technology giant IBM. Okay, so IBM is behind this. They built the quote unquote blockchain tech that this Iran CBDC is being built on. The news comes among the Iranian authorities preparing to hold an official meeting with the Bank of Russia's governor, who is expected to visit Iran in the near future. Russia and Iran will reportedly be working together to create a gold-backed stablecoin. This is interesting. That would serve as a payment method in foreign trade, right? So Russia is, as we know, is scrambling to essentially devalue the U.S. dollar. One way to do that is, to launch this idealistic gold-backed stablecoin, right? It's interesting, the competition we're seeing among states and cryptos. Hopefully, the best and purest will win. Obviously, governments and states will try their damnedest to prevent things like Monero from succeeding. But given the technology, I think we're all confident that it will, in the end, rise to the top. The cream will rise to the top. But they're going to try their damnedest to stop it along the way. And what I think is interesting, they're going to try to compete with it along the way too, right? So there's going to be two ways they're going to try to stop things like Bitcoin and Monero. One is, just through strong regulations, through coercion, through making it difficult for people not to use true cryptos. And the second is to compete with features. So a gold-backed stablecoin might sound pretty good to some if it's state controlled, right? It sounds very reliable. It might be more reliable than the U.S. dollar, right? That's what they're intending, right? To create this kind of perfectly quote unquote stable crypto. Next story. This is a big one. We brought this up a little bit during the development section. Monero transaction confirmations are now 60 seconds faster, thanks to Hashvolt, Monero Ocean, Support XMR, and Nanopool. On January 19th, this is a post by Rucknium, by the way. So he's the one who kind of pretty much pushed this initiative forward. He will be speaking at Monerotopia. He'll be giving a presentation. As far as I know, this is the first time he will be publicly presenting. He's going to remain anonymous. He's going to do it remotely, but he's going to put on a presentation. He's going to disguise his voice, I believe. Rucknium really strives to stay anonymous, and we totally support that and encourage that. He's an extremely valuable asset in the Monero community. And it's important that guys like him or gals stay anonymous, so it's more difficult for any type of state coercion to enter into the Monero development sphere. Obviously, there's those that aren't anonymous, but it's nice that we have kind of this underbelly of devs that are working anonymously behind the scenes and staying out of harm's way. On January 19th, I released research showing mining pools were delaying the first confirmations of Monero transactions by a full minute on average. I said the delay could be eliminated if pool operators changed their pool software configurations to update the block template more frequently. I have good news. Most major pools did exactly that. I continued to collect the transaction confirmation data after the release of the initial analysis. The average time that a Monero transaction has to wait for its first confirmation has fallen from 3.5 minutes to 2.5 minutes. That's a full minute improvement in less than 2 months. The plot below shows the quicker confirmation times. So this is really cool, right? Within 2 months, we're seeing a drop of 1 minute, 60 seconds in Monero transaction confirmation. This is like the type of thing, a white swan event, I guess you would call it. Like, something that happens out of nowhere, right? That you see these large step function improvements in Monero, right? That things happen. There's really smart people working on this project in an open source manner, and you just don't know what's going to happen next, right? It's not stagnant. It's not like you can't look at this and be like, oh, it's not going to scale. It's not going to. I mean, there's arguments as to why theoretically it does scale anyway. But even ignoring the architecture of Monero itself, you can't discount the fact that it's always under development, and there's really intelligent people that are constantly trying to improve it. And here's just an example of that. So overnight, we're seeing improvements in Monero's transaction confirmation times. This isn't something anybody would have predicted, because how would you? It was essentially kind of discovered and then implemented. So very exciting to see, and we're very, very proud and happy to have Rucknium as a speaker at Monerotopia. Let's give him a round of applause. Super excited for that. Very excited. We're actually creating a whole second stage for remote speakers, and this is going to allow us to fit everybody in at the conference, because I think we're approaching like 30 speakers if you include remote and people that will be in person and all the projects. That's a lot, guys. That's a lot of speakers. So Monerotopia 22 in Miami, anybody that was there knows it was amazing. It was fantastic, but it was a freaking marathon. That's why we created 2 days of conference for this one, but it's going to be just as jam packed, except for 2 days. So it's going to be more of a marathon. Actually, correction, not 2 days, because now we're adding a third day, right? So originally Friday was going to be just a welcome party, but it's now essentially going to be the beginning of the conference, because we just don't have time. And we managed, when Sunita went down to the venue, she's down there now, she was able to land Friday completely. So we'll actually begin setting up hopefully even Thursday night. Friday we'll continue setting up, and then by Thursday afternoon we'll open it up for people to start coming in and hanging out. Hopefully around like 3 o'clock, people can shuffle in, get their badges or whatever we're going to use for as a swag item to determine who's part of the conference. And we'll have a little party, a DJ on day one. We'll have drinks flowing, and we'll have at least 3 to 4 talks that day. They'll be maybe more lighthearted in terms of not like deep, like technical talks, but just kind of more philosophical talks about why Monero is important, why crypto is important, why we're all in this to begin with. So that should be really cool. But we have to actually do it just so we can fit in all the talks. Next story, Coincards.com. Here's a breakdown. Coincards will be remotely participating. Another example, they'll be on the remote stage. They're going to give a quick little lightning talk just to give us an update on Coincards, and they'll be part of Adoption Alley. Here's a breakdown of usage by volume on Coincards by percentage of February 23. BTC is at 40.8%, and XMR is at 17%. So that's the global number. So XMR is number 2, coming in at 17%. In Canada, we've always found this strange, right? But people do have some theories as to why this is the case. BTC number 1, Ethereum number 2, and LTC number 3, and then XMR number 4. So the status of Canada are not adopting Monero as quickly as the liberty-loving individuals of the USA, where Monero is by far number 1. Exceeding even BTC by a tremendous amount. At 62.7% of all USA coin card usage is Monero. And the second is Bitcoin at only 15%. That is tremendous. That is tremendous. Let's get Monero up to number 1 globally. It just makes sense, right? If you're using crypto for the purposes of transacting and buying things anonymously, for example, a gift card, why wouldn't you be using Monero for those purposes? So slowly, I think people are realizing that, as we all know here. Next story, our beloved Sunchakr, Sunita, my wife, was on Bitfinex's show giving a talk. She did an amazing job. I didn't watch it. I just kind of heard her from the other room when she was doing it. So guys, definitely check that out. Give her some love and support. It was very good. Yeah, and then she ran the meetup last night. Sunita's on fire right now. I don't know what happened. I think she's trying to take over Monero Talk, Monerotopia. I don't know what's going on, guys. So if I disappear, Sunchakr is the main suspect. She's taken over. Next story, solo travel to Monerotopia Mexico. Somebody just posted this on Reddit. This is kind of funny. Somebody's saying, is it safe to travel down to Mexico City on your own? I plan on traveling solo from the United States to Mexico City by plane for Monerotopia, assuming plane ticket prices come down a little in May. I don't know about that, whoever this is. If you're going to come, just buy your tickets now. You know, you don't they're probably not going to come down. They're going to go up. That's usually how things work. I'm a little worried about my safety in Mexico City alone, at least based off the news I know of. I know it's exaggerated, which has been talking about increased cartel violence and kidnapping of travelers coming from the United States. So I'd like to get the Monero community's opinion on the topic of safety. So, I mean, obviously this is very reasonable, right? People are concerned about their safety, and I get that. We're not trying to put anybody in danger. But just, real world example, Sunita is down there, knock on wood. I hate saying that just because you don't want to, but she's down there. She's safe. She's having a great time. We've been down there multiple times. She's down there by herself, right? We have some friends down there, but for the most part, she's traveling by herself. Safe. The Roma district of Mexico City is a very safe area. There's, you don't feel safe walking around the streets. Obviously, you don't. You have your wits about you. It's part of a major city. Mexico City is a tremendous metropolis. It's like, I don't know, like over 13 million people, much larger than New York City, than Manhattan. There's areas of it that you would definitely not want to go into as somebody who's not from there, right? But the Roma district, very safe. You see police all over the place walking the streets. They really actively try to keep it safe. And it's actually just very calm. There's parts of Mexico City that have tons of traffic and kind of air pollution because of all the traffic. But the Roma district is this beautiful little area of the city. It's kind of more of a village-esque. It's more like the West Village in Manhattan. They keep it very nice. So knock on wood. It's beautiful. So just get down to Roma. Get an Airbnb. The Airbnbs are very safe and beautiful. The weather's amazing, although it will Sunita's jumping on. What's up?
I'm here. No, I'm just talking. I'm listening to what you're saying.
Did you see this post? I don't want to like push our luck and say, guys, be safe.
Be safe, guys. Everyone, obviously.
Yeah, I respect that people are asking this question. Go ahead, Nita.
No, yeah. I mean, be safe. But be safe everywhere, right? Everywhere you travel. But for the most part, thankfully, it's been kind of good.
Right.
You were at myself.
The meetup last night that you ran. I mean, were there any sketchy vibes or?
No. Knock on wood again. I don't want to jinx myself, but everyone was super sweet. Everyone's super nice here. I walked at night, and obviously don't walk too late. I felt safe. I felt good. My hotel that I'm staying at, which is actually one of the hotels that we suggested, was the more affordable one. Love it so far. Been there for 3 days. So it was the Blanca.
Casablanca hotel. Or something, right? What is it?
Casablanca, yeah. That one I'm staying at. Really nice. Everyone there is very nice. Rooms are clean. Very, very close to the venue. It's literally like a 5-minute walk. So far, so good, guys. So again, take precautions.
Yeah,
anywhere
guys,
you go, to be honest.
Exactly. Guys, definitely check out and don't forget, we're going to be there together as a clan, right? So, you'll for the most part, you'll be around other people. If you want to wander off, you're taking a risk, right? If you want to wander off,
yeah.
I mean, Sunita and I did it when we went down to Mexico City. We like trekked the city,
Yeah.
But we were aware of what we were getting ourselves into. Sunita speaks Spanish very well. And so we like doing those types of things, and the people are just beautiful, wonderful, loving people, which say for most people around the world, right? And in particular, this area of Roma, it's just very nice. Like there's like no pollution, right? There's no garbage on the street. It's cleaner, a lot.
Very, very clean.
Manhattan, than New York City. You don't see homeless people on the streets. Not that there aren't homeless people in Mexico City, but for whatever reason, they keep that area very clean and nice. I mean, perhaps that's controversial because I don't know how they're accomplishing that, but you walk around that part of the city and it feels like you're in one of the best places you can be. And that we highly recommend that hotel because it's very cheap. It's like what, $40 a night?
Very cheap. Yeah, it was like $40 a night, and
The
Like I
only
said, very clean. People were really nice.
the only thing is
They have
it's
a restaurant on the first floor. Sorry,
right.
just
It's
telling me about the hotel. I really enjoyed it.
it's difficult to get a room because when you go to their website or when you go to the Google
On
Maps
Google, yeah.
and their number is incorrect. So we're gonna put the correct number up because Sunita literally went down, took the Uber there, and like showed up in person. And we're like, why aren't you guys answering the freaking phone? So we'll get the correct number up there, and I think through their website itself they have the correct number at least, right? But call them up.
On their website, yes. Go to their website, and that's the correct number. Do not click on call on Google Maps because I don't know where it takes you to take you there.
All the hotels we recommend are really good, but this one's just best for your
Yeah, this
values
is
in terms of overall, like super close, super cheap, and very like nice, not sketchy at all or dirty.
I'm liking it.
Beautiful. Next story, Dino. Let me keep going here. Biden budget proposes 30% tax on crypto mining electricity usage. So this is part of the big stories that we're seeing this week. There seems to be a lot of crackdown or inklings of it about to happen for crypto in the United States. This is one of the major stories. United States crypto miners could eventually be subject to a 30% tax on electricity costs under a budget proposal by President Joe Biden aimed to reduce mining activity. So they want to add a tax to anybody that's using electricity for mining purposes in the US, a 30% tax. That's crazy. A Department of Treasury supplemental budget explainer paper release March said any firm using resources, whether they be owned or rented, would be subject to an excise tax equal to 30% of the cost of electricity used in digital asset mining. So we saw things in different states, especially New York State. There was they were trying to essentially ban crypto mining in New York. By way of passing a bill that would prevent the retrofitting of old utility power authorities for purposes of retrofitting them for crypto mining because they didn't like that it was quote unquote being used to create magic internet money and burn fossil fuels, right? So they wanted to stop that, right? Which is absurd, right? This is technology. The government shouldn't be telling us how we use our energy in the first place. The market should be telling us how we use our energy. If people want to have demand for using energy for these purposes, then we should allow the market to do that, right? And the government's putting a tax on that to try to prevent the natural tendency of the market to want to use scarce resources for purposes of mining crypto and supporting the network. So it's interesting. It's interesting that they have to go to these great extents to try to stop crypto by, for example, now implementing a tax on anybody that wants to mine. It proposed the tax would be implemented after December 31st, phased in over 3 years at a rate of 10% a year, reaching max 30% rate. So, there's so much to be said here, guys. This is like what we're talking about, right? Bitcoin miners in particular are susceptible to something like this. They're ASIC mined. They're becoming more centralized in ways, and those that argue otherwise, here's a perfect example. The government is able to effectively overnight implement a tax on the entire Bitcoin mining ecosystem in the United States, with the with really nothing stopping them. And that, to me, that's a sign of Bitcoin being susceptible to government coercion. So they're able to easily implement this tax because, for the most part, all crypto miners in the U.S. are major companies that use ASICs that are easy to find and easy to send a letter to and easy to come collect their taxes on. And so they're using coercion to force these companies to comply with these new taxes. It's going to lead to, I'm sure, regulatory capture. Essentially, those companies that are already large will stay large, and they'll essentially, potentially, why it's a tax, could benefit from things like this, making it more difficult from smaller companies to compete. And just the fact that they're able to do this versus something like Monero, which is, as of today, CPU mineable only, right? There is this in Monero, the CPU is the ASIC. There aren't any large ASIC farms mining Monero. You can compete with your CPU in the Monero network permissionlessly. And effectively, what that does is prevent things like this, where overnight a government can have an effect on the entire mining industry for your crypto. We saw it happen in China, right? Where China stepped in. Overnight, they essentially banned Bitcoin mining. And what happened? Bitcoin, the hash rate plummeted. They were able to do this. The government was able to do this because they were very easy for them to round up all the Bitcoin miners, very easy to get the word out and enforce that when all the Bitcoin miners are companies with warehouses of large miners that need to bend the knee to the state if they want to exist. So overnight, the hash rate plummeted, and Bitcoiners, what was their take? Oh, well, look what happened. All the hash rate moved to the US. That shows you how unstoppable Bitcoin is, right? They shut it down in China and it moves to the US. I think that's a really kind of asinine way of looking at it. What it showed is the state's ability to have influence over the mining network, as exemplified by the state of China shutting it down overnight. And yes, the US picked it up, but that doesn't mean the US could essentially do the same thing. And here they are doing just that. Now, are they banning Bitcoin mining overnight? No, but they're greatly co-opting it and affecting it overnight. And so that's my takeaway for this story. It's just another feather in the cap for Monero and its mission to be essentially mined by CPUs. One CPU, one vote is the goal. And it's a very powerful goal and will allow the network to stay decentralized. It's going to be, imagine if the US government wanted to ban all Monero mining. So they'd essentially be exercising a 30% tax on anybody that's using electricity to run a computer. So just think about that. And I don't think that's going to happen, guys. It'd be very difficult. If they tried to do it, it'd be extremely difficult to, in practice, carry it out. Next story: U.S. government's 1 billion Bitcoin transfer spooks investors. Bitcoin dips. So this was interesting. People were following the money as they always do in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin dipped. This is a little bit of old news for the week and early Wednesday because news happened so fast in Bitcoin, but this happened this week as well. Bitcoin dipped to 22,000, since dipped much further because of other catastrophes that's happened. Early Wednesday, after authorities moved some of the Bitcoin to Coinbase controlled wallets. So people got scared. They saw the US authorities transferred 1 billion worth of Bitcoin recovered from a dark web hack to new wallet addresses, including one owned by Coinbase. So everybody's watching the US government move the money to Coinbase and I guess speculating that it's going to be sold off, which is kind of unique because traditionally, anytime the U.S. government has obtained Bitcoin through coercion, of course, taking it away from people that did illegal things, they came and took away their Monero. I mean, their Bitcoin. I'm sorry. Well, this unconfiscatable asset seems to be confiscated quite a bit. This asset that's claimed to be impossible to confiscate. It seems like when the U.S. government wants it, they go ahead and go get it. So recently, we're seeing $1 billion worth that they have from a dark web hack. And like I said, traditionally, the way the government's handle is they've auctioned it off. They've auctioned off their Bitcoin, which have caused ripples in the market. But now the ripples in the market are coming from watching the U.S. government move their Bitcoin to what appears to be Coinbase, and you can only guess for the purposes of, I guess, liquidating it. I don't know how the legalities of that and why now they're able to just sell it versus doing an auction. I'm not following these things too closely. I don't know if there has been any movement in terms of them actually selling People can bring me up to speed on that in the comments if anybody knows. But this is just kind of another story of Bitcoin being completely traceable, and this is one of the features of it. And you can watch Bitcoin as they move, even $1 billion worth that's controlled by the government, and it spooked the entire market. Wait till Satoshi's coins move, then we'll see a real spook in the marketplace. Not that would ever happen, guys, but you never know. You never know. Getting crypto firms to do their work within the bounds of the law. Gary Gensler wrote an opinion piece on the 9th, so 2 days ago, on kind of the state of crypto and crypto regulation, and just kind of coming out and whining and saying, it's securities, everything's security. Nobody's listening to me. I told everybody it was security. We've been clear that most crypto tokens that are backed by entrepreneurs, among other features, are likely to be securities. So he's saying the vast majority of all crypto is considered a security. We've been clear how lending and staking platforms come under the securities laws. We've been clear that platforms listing crypto securities must register with the SEC. Further, the securities laws are clear that these platforms are not to combine functions under a single umbrella that creates conflicts of risk for investors. So he's just coming down, reminding everybody that he thinks everything is a security. I think I think his only exception is Bitcoin, and I think he's labeled thrown Ethereum in that mix as like saying no Ethereum. I think he's come out and said that, but that can change. Which leads to the next story. New York Attorney General alleges Ether is a security in KuCoin lawsuit. So they're basically coming out for purposes of going after KuCoin for illegal securities trading, right? They're an exchange, and one of the allegations against them is that they're allowing people to trade securities illegally, and one of those securities allegedly being Ether. So in the court case, or the New York Attorney General is for this case to essentially have merit or grounding, they're considering trying to label ETH as a security. A press release said the lawsuit was part of ongoing efforts to crack down on unregistered cryptocurrency platforms. New York State Attorney General Letitia James, she just obviously doesn't really love crypto that much, filed suit against KuCoin on Thursday, alleging the Seychelles-based crypto exchange is violating security laws by offering tokens, including Ether. So they're including Ether in that mix of what they're calling tokens, right? They're not labeling, they're not saying, oh, except Ether, it's like Bitcoin, it's not a security, it's something else. That must meet the definition of a security without registering with the Attorney General's offices. So because this exchange is allowing people to trade tokens, including Ether, they're saying they need to register with the SEC before people can exchange securities. The suit is the first time a regulator has claimed in court that Ether is a security. So we're starting to, and here we go. Through Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Gary Gensler has hinted that his agency might consider Ether to be a security. Okay, so this is news to me, because I thought he had kind of put it in the Bitcoin basket of not being a security. Obviously, we're seeing Letitia James, the New York State General, trying to move Ether over into the security basket. And it appears that Gary Gensler, the SEC chairman, is also agreeing and hinting at that. The SEC's sister regulatory agency, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, has long maintained that both Bitcoin and Ether are commodity assets. So we have these different regulatory bodies. This has been happening since day one, well, not day one of crypto, but in the early days of crypto, everybody was trying to figure out how to define it. And obviously, every regulatory body has the incentive to define it on their own terms, right? So that their regulations apply to it. But this is interesting. I mean, this is tremendous news if ETH becomes labeled considered a security in the eyes of the United States government. James Suit argues that Ether is considered a security under the Martian Act, a 102-year-old New York anti-fraud law that gives the Attorney General powers to investigate securities fraud and bring both civil and criminal actions against violators. Because the value of Ether is dependent on the efforts of others, including co-founder Vitalik Buterin. So, you know, you got the Howey test. So this is one of the arms of the Howey test. This is they're focusing in on this concept of the value of Ether is dependent on the efforts of others. So if there's others that are behind an asset that are building it and have that are incentivized to build it for the purposes of profiting, then the selling of that asset can be considered a security, or traditionally has been. And so, you know, with Bitcoin, the argument is, well, there is nobody behind it. Satoshi was anonymous. It developed in this way where there's no company or group that stands to benefit from it. It's open source. It is a product of nature, right? It just organically came to be, as opposed to something like Ethereum, which has a CEO, essentially Vitalik. He's the face of Ethereum. He's the creator of Ethereum. He is the visionary. He's the one that pitched Ethereum to the world and then sold it, right? I remember I was there. Granted, I should have bought some, but I didn't. I didn't want to spend I was BTC Maxi at the time, and for one Bitcoin, which at the time I remember was valued around $300, would get you 2,000 Ethereum in the Ethereum pre-sale. So they had a pre-sale for Ethereum. I remember that. I mean, that sounds a little bit security-ish, right? They're pre-selling, so this group of people that stands to benefit from the price, we're out there selling it in a pre-sale. Come and get your Ethereum before we launch. Frankly, I don't know how it's not considered a security. I don't want to be labeled somebody who's rooting for any cryptos to be labeled securities, because, you know, screw them. But the fact is, this is how states are going to operate. So I'm rooting for Monero and or other cryptos that are built in such a way that they're resistant to these labels. And then even more so, even if they are labeled in this way, are resistant to practically being stopped. And ETH doesn't seem to really fall into this category of being a technology that can't be co-opted by the state. Bitcoin, not either. Yes.
I was wondering if I could say something about ETH really quick.
Go for
it. the way that it was sold, definitely there's a good case to be made that it was sold as an investment contract. Mm-hmm. And almost certainly, if there's a court case, that's probably what the SEC will argue. And I believe that's what they're arguing with Ripple right now, that the thing that they sold was an investment contract, but that's also a slightly different consideration than whether or not ETH is presently a security in its current form. Mm-hmm. More likely than not, it would almost certainly be ruled as currently not a security for the people holding it and using it, but it might have been sold as a security. So that's kind of a fine distinction there.
Yeah, but it's a distinction that's up to the powers that be to make, right? So I understand the logic there, but on what side are they going to come down, right? We don't know. And honestly, my hunch is I agree with you. I don't think ETH will be labeled. Although with this recent news is pretty damning. They're trying to. I mean, what do you think, Bawdy, of this? I mean, we have the Attorney General in New York alleging that ETH is a security. So
they might. There's probably a lot of things that they can do. A lot of power they might have merely on the allegation. That probably gives them a lot of leverage. I think that the Ripple case is going to be very instructive for us. How that turns out. It looks to me like the SEC has bumbled this case in almost every way possible. Now, maybe that's on purpose. Jesse Powell had a very good tweet the other day where he said that bureaucracies like the SEC, they tend to let the bad guys continue operating, and they say, oh, we're investigating, we're collecting more information, we need more But then they go after the little guys, the good guys that are actually like trying to comply. Guys like I think Reggie Middleton is a famous name out there, or somewhat famous name, that he tried to comply. He talked to them for 2 years. He tried to do everything right, and then they attacked him anyways. So I think there's a lot of sort of hidden agendas going on. It could very well be that Gary Gensler is, it might be, or maybe not just Gary Gensler, but it could be that the SEC is like intentionally bumbling this Ripple case. But at any rate, I think it'll be very instructive for us to see how the Ripple case ends, and then that'll probably just double onto ETH. It would be my guess.
So what I love asking you these tough questions, but what are the odds you think at the end of the day ETH gets labeled a security in the eyes of the US government, in the eyes of the SEC, where Chairman Gary Gensler, according to this article, has hinted that his agency might consider ETH to be a security? What are the odds you're giving this?
1%.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, in its current form, I think it's extremely unlikely that they're going to be able to win a court case where they argue that ETH in its current form as a network is a security. They might be able to argue that it was sold as a security, as an investment contract, but I think it's.
Oh, when in history, in case law, have we ever seen something that was sold as security that was then no longer considered a security?
That's a great question. I can't think of a single one, but that doesn't mean they don't exist.
It doesn't mean they don't exist, but I don't know. This could escalate pretty high in the legal system before we get a clear answer. This could be something where the SEC does come down on it, just throwing hypotheticals out there, and then maybe it becomes a Supreme Court case or something where it's tested and the law is tested.
The SEC took a pretty big loss today. I think I read this news story just before the price report. So GBTC and Grayscale was suing the SEC for denying their spot ETF. So they have an ETF, but it's a futures-based ETF. It's based on the price and what's happening at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, not on the spot price of Bitcoin. So Grayscale sued the SEC, saying that they're being inconsistent and unfair. And a judge, I don't think they ruled anything yet, but they basically said that they agree with Grayscale that the SEC is being very unfair, that they're not applying the standard consistently. So, I mean, the SEC just, when they have to go to court, they seem like very powerful when they don't have to go to court, when they can just attack people with their massive infrastructure and resources. But when they actually have to go to court up against people that have billions of dollars, it seems like they have a much more difficult time arguing their case, because we all see it. They're being completely unfair. They're not being consistent. They're intentionally not providing solid guidance. They want the gray area. They want free range to do whatever they want to do. So I think a lot of these court cases are going to set the tone here, and that'll be great. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, all the scams, and I hate Ripple. I think they falsely marketed themselves and all kinds of stuff with their partnerships. But I would rather deal with the problems of a few extra people, or maybe even a lot of corporate scumbags kind of running around doing their scams, whatever, than to have to deal with the problems attendant with a very centralized, powerful state that prevents you from doing any kind of innovation. Because at least we can still do the innovation if we're not totally shut down by the government. So that would be my thinking on that.
Let me hear you. I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you strong man the case as to why ETH could be considered a security? What do you think are the strongest arguments for it? Because I think about it. I think about ETH versus Monero. I think there's a much stronger case to be had for ETH being a security than something like Monero.
So I guess the classic things that we're looking for is the Howey test, where people sent funds to a common managerial pool with the expectation of profit derived solely from the efforts of those managers. And right now, you could call the Ethereum Foundation basically that sole managerial effort. They took I think it was 10%. They kept 10% of the supply when they did the pre-sale, and they still have a significant amount of that. So the work that they do is causing the value of the Ethereum token to rise.
Yeah.
So you could basically say that even the secondary sales, you could try and steelman argue that even those secondary sales of Ethereum are people depending on the managerial efforts of the Ethereum Foundation to increase the value of these tokens that they're holding. And whether it's a piece of paper like a stock, where Hershey's back in the day, everyone just used to trade these paper stocks, or whether it's a digital asset or digital issuance, it's still the same concept. So you could definitely try to make a very good case that even in its current form is very much a security and investment contract, specifically when you point to some of the centralized providers of like how to actually access the blockchain, right? We're talking like Infura and Consensus and the kind of wallets and infrastructure. You could show how centralized those guys are and how connected they are to the Ethereum Foundation as well, and then try and wrap them up as part of the managerial effort as well. So
exactly.
that would be my steelman case.
And then I think additionally is proof of stake. I think there's arguments to be made how proof of stake kind of tends towards potentially being running into securities issues. What do you think there? What's that?
Well, I guess I was going to say how so. Like I don't quite see how proof of stake could necessarily boost the argument that ETH in its current form is a security. What's your connection there? What's your logic?
Well, because people are staking the crypto, right? They're holding it with the expectation that it's going to go up in value, as opposed to proof of work mining. It's more direct, like you're making an investment with the hope of a return on it.
The SEC definitely ruled against Kraken recently, saying that staking on behalf of other people with the expectation of yield is a security, and then Kraken backed down. They paid, I believe it was $30 million. That was very recently. I think Tony covered that a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure, like staking itself, I guess maybe. I mean, so I'd have to think about that. It seems a little bit more tenuous, but
yeah, it's more tenuous, but I think it's just another argument to be made. It's another step in the direction of, getting a little closer towards, reasonings for why it can be labeled a security. But yeah, interesting stuff. I'd be very surprised if ETH was labeled a security in the US, but I don't know. Given how crazy things are, it's possible. But yeah, let me keep going here. Next story: Silvergate downfall sparks debate over whose fault it actually was. So we covered this story pretty well. The demise of the crypto-friendly bank has prompted discussion about who tipped the first domino and where crypto firms can turn for their banking needs. The voluntary liquidation of Silvergate has sparked many to share their thoughts about the source of its troubles and the broader impact of the crypto-friendly bank's collapse on crypto. From lawmakers to crypto analysts, crypto firms, executives to commentators, nearly everyone's had something to say regarding the recent announcement from Silvergate. Some United States lawmakers have used the moment to make a comment about the state of the crypto industry, labeling it risky, volatile sector, which spreads risk across the financial system. Senator Elizabeth Warren called Silvergate's failure disappointed but predictable, calling for regulators to step up against crypto risk. So she tweeted, "As the bank of choice for crypto, Silvergate's bank failure is disappointing but predictable. I warned of Silvergate's risky, if not illegal, activity and identified several due diligence failures. Now customers must be made whole and regulators should step up against crypto risk." So they're using this as a moment to say we need more regulations. We need to close in on crypto even more, which leads to our last story. Operation Choke Point 2.0, is the U.S. coming for crypto? So there's a lot of rumors out there that kind of all these recent moves, the Biden administration talking about the 30% tax, things like the New York Attorney General's office trying to label ETH a security, the collapse of the Silvergate Bank and the reaction of authorities, that Operation Choke Point might be a real thing, which is essentially the operation of the U.S. government to cut off crypto from the banking system. And so there's this theory out there that this is real, that there's a kind of a real joint effort among various arms of the government to crack down on crypto and to cut it off from the traditional banking system, and or I'd say co-opt it in a way where if it does exist with the traditional banking system, it exists in a way that the banks, and by way of the banks, the government, has control over it. So that's the news for today. It was a big week all around. We can go. Did I lose Sunita? Sunita, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. I guess we will transition to the viewers on. Oh no, our special guest.
I've been waiting for the special guest. For now, it just might be me.
Okay, well let's give you.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
Our special guest is Sunita.
Hello. It's really cool here, guys. Not gonna lie.
What's going on over there? All right. It's a little hard to hear you. No offense, special guest. I love you. But I think we're gonna move to the spaces. So guys, we're gonna go ahead and move to the viewers on stage segment. I'm gonna move over to the spaces. I see some people in there that have been hanging around the whole show. I see Mano Crypto in there. Love to hear some of his take. And so let's move over to that. Sunita is our special guest for the week. We already heard from her. She's live down in Mexico City. She's been there for the last 2 days, coordinating things with the venue to have everything ready for the conference in May. Through a meetup in Mexico City last night, where she onboarded about 10 people to the conference that are going to be helping us out, getting free tickets, and they're going to be helping us spread the word. So Nito is kicking ass. She's kicking ass, guys. Very proud. By the way, reason I couldn't be down there with her, Nito, maybe mute yourself, is because wasn't able to get my passport renewed in time, guys. I don't know what that's all about. Paid the expedite fees, submitted it, even tried to get some help from local congressional offices, but was not able to get my passport renewed in time. Yeah, I attribute that more towards the incompetence of the U.S. government than anything else. It's unbelievable at this day and age. It takes weeks, months to obtain a passport renewal, given the amount of technology out there, right? Amazon would be able to do it in a day. All these corporations know us inside and out. They know exactly who we are, where we are, yet they can't figure out how to give us identification document, which is ridiculous to begin with, right? Carrying around a little piece of paper saying who we are, when it's very easy in this day and age to kind of seamlessly watch the people as they come and go over the border. All right, let's move to the viewer on stage segment. Here we go, guys.
It's the viewers on stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
Okay. Actually, Sunita, if you want to tell me how I can continue to then I'm going to move over to the spaces. That I can figure out. But normally then you broadcast here on this end. Are we doing that, Sunita? Or can you do it? Run that for me. Let me make myself a co-host. Send co-host invite. So anybody that wants to speak.
Can you hear me?
Please. Yeah, I could hear you now.
Okay, so what you have to do is share. You got to open up another tab on the desktop to Twitter. So once you open it, go to the
All right,
spaces.
guys, just give me a second so I can try to do this.
I'm going to try to put music in.
Okay. Be patient for a sec. We want to catch the stream of what's going to be said in the spaces so we can post it later. can we just edit that in later? I mean, the Spaces is being recorded. Can we just do that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you just gotta download the file. Not sure.
So this way, otherwise it's cutting off people from watching it on YouTube. Essentially, what's happening? We don't do it this way.
Yeah, if you don't do
Yeah,
it this way, the people that are watching right now won't be able to listen to unless they go onto Spaces. So yeah, just find the Spaces.
Okay. Let me try to do it. I could do it. So I'm gonna do listen live on here. So tell me what I gotta do on the.
And then you have to share the screen to that tab.
Okay.
You're sharing, and you gotta then mute yourself on the desktop. So you're gonna share the tab as you were like similar to how you were sharing the news links. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So share that tab.
All right. I think we did it.
Okay, so now what you have to do is mute yourself on the desktop because you don't want feedback. I'm gonna mute myself. Okay. Now move on to that, and once you start talking, I'll pause the music.
All right, I think we did it. Sorry about that, guys. Go ahead. Anybody that wants to jump up? See Lip, Mano. What's going on, man? You want to jump up? Hello. Mano's giving a thumbs up. Lip, what's going on? Anybody else want to? Oh, Mano's requesting. Let's get him up here.
Oh, what's going on? What's going on? Yeah, I can hear you. But I'll wait till your special guest, but I'll make sure I speak up before you end the space.
All right, brother. Yeah, let's hear from Mano. I haven't heard from him in a while. What's going on, man?
Hey, Douglas, how are you, brother? I'm good. I'm so busy with Coin Power, you know. So yeah, it's okay. How are you?
Good. What's going on with Coin Power?
Yeah, it's actually very good. You know, I built on Discord. I'm leading a lot of new members now. You see, in the bear market, a lot of people are scared, you know, and yeah, we are veterans, you know, and we already know these things, and yeah, a lot of people asking for help, you know, the looking for leadership, and yeah, I try to help them the best way I can. There's no panic. And today you see already with this new circus is going on with this stable coin depegging. What a crap shit show, bro. It's a shit show.
Well, yeah. What's your take, man? What's your take on all this?
My take is that this is close to the end of the bear market. That's my take on this. I say this because we can compare this to like April 2017. It happened with USDT as well, the depeg from the dollar. But if you look at the BTC price, then that was actually the ending of the last bear market before. From there, it only went up, you know. And that time around in April, a lot of people were so scared what's going to happen, what's happening, and everybody was just focusing on what is happening on USDT. They were focused on it exactly how the banks wanted, you know, scared people, making people scared and everything. But I always zooming out and try to look what's the purpose here? What are they doing? What's the purpose of everything that's happening today? And you see everyone is scared. Everyone is busy with we're going down. It's the end. And I love this shit. I love this stuff because for me it's a sign that we are very close to the end of this bear market.
What do you think the effect is going to be of the USDC crash?
I think it's Coinbase USDC is too big to fail. I think it will go back to the dollar maybe in a month. They will squeeze this shit out, this drama. They will squeeze it out, make people fair, because on the end that's their goal. That's always their goal. This is for me. This is me personally. I look at these things very different. I look at this events as just acts. For me, it's just all fake. They it's a big theater for me. I see that they're all in it. They're all in it together just to scare the retail buyers and sellers. It's just and I think the feeling that I have right now is like back then that it's we are now very, very close to the bottom. It's very, very close to the bottom. Just shaking out the last people out of the crypto market before they're going to push the market back up. That's what I think. I think USDC is fine. It's fine. Maybe it go a little bit lower these days because they will never, it's a good drama. They will never spoil it, and they will squeeze it till it's dry, and then they leave it alone. That's what I think.
I hear you, man. I hear you. I mean, for me personally, I'm just so in the weeds and in the woods with crypto, with Monero, and actually using it and running our businesses that I'm just not paying attention really to these events. It's just different than the early days, in 2017, or when I first kind of got in 2014, a Mt. Gox crash. I was there sitting watching, what is going to happen, and now it's just I've grown so cold to it. It doesn't even affect me anymore. I don't even look. I mean, I just.
And that's the thing, brother. That's
right.
the thing. We are so old in this thing. We're laughing at. It's not even. We are busy with our things, and why I'm busy with it is because I want to tell my followers, the people that's saying, hey, listen, stay calm, man. Just relax. This don't. The thing is, they want people to suck into the story,
right.
And then when you get sucked in, get distracted, and you only see. Bearish things. You see the bears everywhere, and that's exactly how they want it, and they want your focus away from what you're doing. And it's very bad, but this is something you need to learn. You grow in this,
Yeah, and it's also part of that whole Operation Choke Point, right? The way they push forward is they have to win over the people. They especially here in the U.S., right? Despite what Bitcoin may be labeled, at the end of the day, it is a democratic republic, and they do need the political will to push in new regulations. So they see events like this as an opportunity to excite the populace about it. Use scare tactics to scare everybody about crypto. Any major crypto failure, we see the same thing again, and they try to then ratchet up the regulation and use it as a moment to tell the world, Big Daddy government is here to protect you. Now we're going to pass these regulations to make sure you can't get hurt by these evil things, these evil technologies.
Yeah, exactly. It's a shit show. It's like like these things with 9/11 and this stuff. They blowing this shit up, and then they going to tell us what we need to do. That we need them. It's always the same. Now they want regulation. You will see exactly as you say. You will see coming days or coming weeks. You will see that they will come with new regulations. We need regulation. We need this, and it's always benefits them and not us. It's always the same. It's always the same. They are crooks.
Exactly, brother. Any chance we see you down at Monerotopia, man? I know it might be a hard, difficult trip for you. Yeah, there's a chance.
Where is it? Where is it? Man, I hate flying, bro.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You don't fly at all, dude. You just gotta pop some Valium or something and get on the plane. You just wake up and you're there. Come on, man.
Stoic told me. He said you need. Man, I'm so scared, bro. Wallah, I'm so scared, man. Oh my God, I'm so scared for flying. Where is it this time? Where's the Monerotopia?
In Mexico City, man. We chose Mexico City
God.
because we knew that's accessible for people. You know, you don't need a U.S. passport, U.S. visa or anything. Just come over to Mexico, man. It's a beautiful place.
Oh, it's man, it's flying. It's just on the other side here, but wow, man,
do it.
Yeah, you know me. I'm so scared of the flying, bro. Yeah. Maybe with the video or something.
Yeah. No, I know. Some people are just terrified. They're terrified of it.
Yeah, I'm really terrified. I never.
It's irrational, man. Ask Bawdy. Bawdy's a pilot. Bawdy, give him some insight. How irrational is it to be afraid of a commercial flight?
Well, I could tell you all the statistics and the rationality of it, but that's still not going to like assuage your fear, right? But if your fear is that you're going to crash and die, you would be like, it's amazing all of the different safety features that they put on airplanes, and in terms of procedures, these pilots, like every single one of these pilots is just top notch. And then furthermore, most of the crashes that do happen, it's like 90% survival rate. So actually dying in a fatal accident is pretty low risk, like in fact, extremely low risk. It's more dangerous to drive in Mexico City. You're more likely to get in a car accident and get hurt driving in Mexico City than you are flying into it, like by huge, insane amounts.
Yeah. No, I know this, I know it, but I fly it once or no, 2 times, but yeah, I tried it, but I'm so scared. I want to sit on the seat of the pilot, otherwise yeah, man, it's so scary. My hands are wet. I'm sweating. I counting every second, man. It's so bad for me, man. It's so bad. If I could drive there, I would drive, but or a boat or something.
Have you ever thought about going down and just taking a flight in like a Cessna 172 or something? Because you can sit right up there in the front. They'll let you fly. They'll pull the power, and you'll be like, "Oh, everything still works. We're just gliding." That might help you get overcome that fear.
Yeah, man. Maybe I need something like this because it's not healthy. I know it, because also with vacations, I want to go on good vacations, but I only go on vacation where I can go travel with my car. So it's a little bit. It's also a disability, actually. It's not. It sounds funny, but it actually it isn't funny because it disables me a lot. I cannot go. I want to go visit Thailand and like Mexico, but every time when I think I have to go in the plane, I stop. I book in my own neighborhood. For vacation. Yeah, it's a little bit fucked up. It's a shitty situation, but yeah.
Maybe you could get a sailboat.
Yeah,
what?
I hope we'll
get you on sailboat and travel the high seas.
What do you think the root of it is? It's just that you feel like you don't have control over the situation?
Yeah, exactly. I sit there, I have no control. I think that's the problem. But I also I was watching when I was little. I was always watching this on National Geographic. These planes that are crashing. Yeah, this don't ever show it to a child because he's never going to fly when he's old.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's no joke. That was I watched it too much, and after I was scared myself.
Yeah.
Here's a little
Since
tip.
then I fly it once or 2 times, but it was so normal. It was not. It's not my thing.
Here's a little tip. In an airliner plane crash, all the first class people have first class tickets to being the first to die, because when the plane crashes, all that crumple zone happens up front. So most of the injuries are in the front half of the airplane, and the people sitting in the back are often like totally uninjured, even when there's like deaths up front. So I don't know. I mean, if you hop on an airplane, you could buy a back row seat and ride a little bit more comfortably, I guess.
Maybe I wait till the new planes have I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know, man.
Crazy, man. But you trust crypto. You're not fearful of crypto.
No, not at all. It's flying. It's like flying for me, man. That's I feel like flying with crypto, especially with Monero. Yeah, we are pushing Monero in Holland, and yeah, it went well. I do it always. I never forget Monero. I have a special relationship with Monero.
Awesome, brother. Anybody else out there want to jump up, talk about some of the stuff we brought up today? We've had quite a long show. Lips, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I'm ready. Anybody else ready before I hop on? All right, cool. Hey, Bonnie and Doug, yeah. After this bull run happens, then we'll have a little bit more money. I'll probably be ready to schedule a plane ride or whatever. I'll pay for a parachute for all of us, God forbid. But yeah, seriously, because you have more control, and I'm pretty sure Bonnie probably gonna be the best that I could get with keeping everybody safe, especially if we hit a good bull run. But let me get away from the small talk. All right, so have y'all heard of the blue sky law? I'm looking at it right on Google. It's called the blue sky law. So pull that up real quick. It has something to do with the Howey test. It's another test to determine. And then what about the Hinman kind of ETH shield? Because Hinman was the only person with credibility. Just kind of might not be the case now, that went publicly and made a statement about Ethereum and its fundraising. So I want to see what y'all had to say about that.
Yeah, blue sky laws. I'm not really familiar with them. I've heard of it. I know what you're talking about. There's a guy named Jeremy Hogan that talks a lot about the Ripple case. But one of the big aspects of the Hinman emails and the Ripple defense is the fair notice defense. They're saying, hey, we didn't have any clarity. Like, we couldn't have known. We asked you guys and y'all wouldn't respond to us. And so the Hinman emails are kind of, they're problematic from multiple angles from the SEC because, first of all, they've been admitted into evidence in their federal case. So here you have like the leader of the SEC saying that they think that ETH isn't a security, which at a bare minimum proves that even the SEC didn't know how they were going to regulate this stuff or what the status of it was. So that's a really big boost to the fair notice defense, which like you could even still be a security in that case or have been sold as an investment contract. But because the SEC refused to provide clarity and there was no fair notice, even though they tried to seek it, even if it was a security, you can't hold them liable, or maybe they couldn't be held liable. That's a ruling that very well could be made by Judge Torres, who's the judge presiding over the SEC versus Ripple case.
Okay.
The blue sky laws, I
I'll send you some stuff
exactly.
right now. I got it up. It's a term that's been out since the 1900s.
Can I?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't make any guesses on it. I mean, what do you know about it?
All right, so I'm looking at it, reading it right now. I'm not the best reader, but I can send it to y'all. When you look on Google, it's a couple of different interpretations of it, and then it talks about the origin. So all you gotta do is scroll down real quick. Like, it's not hard to find. Like, I promise you.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. In 1917, the term blue sky law was first used by the U.S. Supreme Court in Hall versus Geiger and was coined by advocates of the first blue sky law enacted in 1911 in Kansas, who sought to protect investors from securities backed by nothing but the blue sky. In the decade that followed Kansas' blue sky law, many states adopted similar securities laws to protect consumers, and New York passed its blue sky law, the Martian Act, in 1921. So that's what we mentioned in the news, the Martian Act or the Martin Act. The Martin Act. The Martin Act is what the Attorney General's office is relying upon for alleging that the KuCoin, is guilty of violating securities law by selling securities on there.
And is it just my opinion, but maybe the ERC20 could be a security, but not Ethereum itself, meaning the underlying contract and how it's packaged? Just speculation.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million different ways this thing can go. It's going to be what the powers that be decide. Bawdy was giving some reasoning as to why he really doesn't see it likely that it goes in the direction of ETH being labeled security. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Maybe ERC20s or certain things will be labeled securities that are built on ETH, but the ETH protocol itself won't be labeled one.
Right.
That sounds reasonable. But we don't know. My gut says ETH won't be labeled a security in the US, but I'm surprised by how far things are going right now. In terms of the allegation, especially here in New York.
Yeah, it seems all set up.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, go for it, Desiree.
Yeah, what I want to know is, look for Monero. Don't you think that the governments will not accept Monero? So, yeah, that is my question.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is we really don't care, or I can't speak for everybody, but the goal here is to build a crypto that is resistant to government regulation, not one that's hoping that we have permission for it to exist. It's to build something that they can't stop. And Monero, I believe, is best suited for that purpose. It's very hard for governments to co-opt and control Monero. They can try to regulate it, but for them to effectively stop it would be very difficult. And then the second arm of that, or arm of that response would be, no, I don't think globally it will be banned. I think you may have attempts at it in certain countries. You'll see some countries come out ahead and try to ban it, but I think you'll see others become bastions of safe crypto areas where you can use Monero without the fear of a ban. And ultimately, I think a place like the United States, just like I don't think they would label Ether security, but even more so, I don't think they would try to ban Monero. I think it's very unlikely that they would effectively create a law that would label Monero illegal to use, and by way of doing that, violating, some pretty strong precedent that code is speech, that money is speech, that communication through encryption is essentially protected speech. We saw with the PGP in the 90s when the government tried to basically label the pretty good privacy encryption tech as being an illegal munition. And we saw how that ended up panning out, where the government stepped back and ultimately encryption persevered. And I think ultimately United States, while it does have tendencies towards doing things that limit people's rights in this day and age, I think push come to shove, I don't think there'd be enough political will to ban open source software for purposes of transacting value.
Okay, thank you. One more question, but it's more for Mano. I don't know if he can speak.
I think
Yes, I can speak.
Oh yeah. My English is bad, so ik ga het in het Nederlands doen als je het niet erg vindt. Stel als je Monero hebt en kijk, uiteindelijk wil je misschien toch uitcashen, maar bijvoorbeeld in Nederland moet je toch opgeven van hoeveel je gaat uitcashen, zeg maar. Maar ja, hoe ga je dat doen eigenlijk? Want anders gaan ze toch zien dat je misschien aan het witwassen bent. Als je Monero gaat uitcashen. Als je begrijpt wat ik bedoel.
Well, yes, I understand. I will try to reply in English. So his question was how you cash out Monero without getting the tag of laundering. I think that was his question. Well, actually, I don't know, because if they allow it, then you don't need to cash it out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to cash out Monero, and if they ban Monero, then it's forbidden. You can do it. You cannot do it anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You can also ask the question of how do you deposit cash into a bank without being labeled as a money launderer? And then you can double that answer for Monero as well, because Monero, in my mind, legally functions almost exactly the same as cash.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
Well, what I think with because Douglas already answered it, but in my view, because if we speak about they're going to ban it, let's say they're going to ban, government's going to ban Monero, it's going to happen, they're going to ban Monero. I think that they can do it like they doing it with cash already in Europe. You know, when you have a certain amount of cash, it's forbidden to have it, otherwise you end up in jail. Like that's already happening now in Europe. But like in Holland, it's like 3,000. In Belgium, it's like 3,000 euro. You can use 3,000 euro payments without identification and anything. Everything above 3,000 euro is forbidden to pay cash. I think maybe they're going to try something like this for crypto, a crypto like Monero. You know.
And then they went after Kraken out of all the exchanges too. That was real peculiar.
Yeah, but you know, fair questions. I think this is a concern. But ultimately, the way Monero succeeds is people not fearing that governments may ban it, but just opting into it and using it. And through the will of the people, it survives. Because at the end of the day, it's just a technology. It's peer to peer. It's unstoppable in that sense. It's as simple as having a CPU at your home running it, or you know, having an app on your phone, and it pretty much becomes impossible for governments to practically stop it. And
yeah,
go ahead.
You can already Oh, sorry, Douglas.
It's okay.
No, you can already you can already look at the dark web. You know, it's forbidden to interact there with the drugs and everything. You know, even it's illegal, but people don't care. You know, oh, what do you think that people are going to say? Hey, listen, Monero is forbidden on the darknet. Okay, I don't use it anymore. Give me BTC back. You know, they're going to use it because why? They need it. Because they need it. They don't care about the rules, and governments understand this. You know, you can say okay, it's banned, and what happens next? If there is a need for it, they're going to use it. You know, even they can ban whatever, they can do whatever they want. If people need it, they will use it. You know, it's not like in the end that okay, governments banned Monero. Oh, the old dark web is going to say, ah, shit, we're not going to use it anymore. Leave it how it is. No, people don't care. If it works, if it protects them, they're going to use it.
I think if they ban it, the price is going to go up. I think it's going to happen the opposite way of what they would think would happen.
That's what that's what I'm always telling the members. You know, listen, if they're going to ban Monero, it's a national holiday. We must make it a national holiday. Why? Because if what does it mean that if they ban it, it means that exchanges must also ban it. They cannot sell. They cannot interact with it. What this means that into the wild. It's not under the control anymore of the big exchanges, because the big exchanges, as we know right now, they are manipulating the price. They're manipulating the price of Monero down. If they have to dump Monero, yeah, Monero will go into the wild. What's going to happen with the price? The buying power of Monero is going up. It will go skyrocketing. You know, because on this moment, the only way that Monero is low is because of the suppression of KuCoin, Binance. They are pressing it down years and years. If Monero is forbidden by governments, then they cannot interact anymore with Monero. You know, so what happens? What's the logical? It's going to be free for real free, because then there is a real supply and demand, not fake, but it's a real supply and demand, and then you will see the real price of Monero, and you will see it in buying power. People go instead of they going to buy 1 gram of coke on the dark web, they can go and buy one kilo of coke with 1 Monero. If you may know what I mean, you know. Yeah.
It had there's great value in the ability to transact in a cash-like manner on the internet, and there's no other technology that does it that has achieved this to the degree Monero has. And people are going to demand use of that utility, and because they will always have access to it, it will always exist, and there'll always be demand for it, and they'll always use it. So no matter what governments try to do, it will continue to be used. But like PGP, like I gave the example of, ultimately, I think governments or the US government would give up on trying to effectively ban it, and instead would eventually embrace it and realize what we all realize here is the positive attributes of it and why it's ethically, the superior, right? So it's morally positive technology, allowing people to have control of their money, to use their money as they wish, to transact without censorship, or without any government or corporation being able to hinder their transaction or surveil their transaction. And I think these will become ideas that society at large will embrace and realize that, yes, with the good comes the bad, right? Just like with PGP, people can use it to communicate in nefarious ways that the government can't see. But ultimately, the idea is, if you believe that most people are good, and if you believe in the idea of open and free societies, then you want to allow humanity to communicate in a liberated way without censorship. And Monero is the ultimate form of that. And so that's really what it comes down to, and more so the fact that it can't be stopped. So it's kind of a personal question that everybody has to ask themselves is, do you think this is a good technology for society, for the world? And if you do, then use it and get others to use it. If you don't, then that's your own personal decision, and we'll see which way humanity goes if ultimately they adopt it. But it really can't be stopped in any practical way.
Yeah, and also the other thing is that what we see right now is that governments are trying to crack down more and more things we love on the moment. I think a lot of people already now see, like I always say the example of meat. You see, I think or milk, something like milk from a cow. In the future, when they going to ban, if they are going to ban stuff like that, things we love. Now it's okay. Now it's drugs, but later on, we want to, if they ban something like milk or cheese, or something we love, meat, something like this. If they are going to ban it, we want. It's not that the demand is going away. No, we people want it. And if we cannot buy it with the CBDC, because by then we have CBDC program money, yeah, and we getting punished if we use meat or something like this. We're going to use a way to pay it outside of the system. And what do we have there? Monero is there. We have Monero. It is waiting for us there. Monero will. There is a use case for Monero. I think it's something we need for the future.
Exactly, man. Exactly. All right, guys. This was an epic show, a marathon as always. Anybody else want to throw anything out there before we close it out?
I kind of wanted to offer just a few closing thoughts that are more speculative on all the things that are happening right here about SVB and regulation and all this stuff. So it looks to me, so we've talked about BlackRock is the company, BlackRock and Fidelity own Circle. And it seems like they're extremely deep insiders. We saw Peter Thiel was one of the people that actually got out of SVB, and he's kind of an insider as well. He's kind of a shady character. One of the things I think might be happening here is that they might have taken down, and this is very speculative, SVB might have been taken down as a way to show the world that, look, when crypto collapses and FTX, everyone loses everything, and it's going to be years of litigation, and look at Mt. Gox and FTX and all these terrible failures. But when SVB, a regulated US bank, fails, well, everyone gets almost all their money back in a very short period of time because of how safe all our regulations are. And so they're probably going to try and leverage that into bringing more crypto regulations. I think it's also a very good opportunity for USDC to basically meet this crazy panic selling that's happening, and for them to basically show, no, look, even when we have a bank failure, we're solid, we're responsible, we are the stable coin for the future for DeFi. I think they're in a very solid position right now to basically prove that in such a way that that gives them, like, what seems like a negative now could very easily become an even greater positive for them, which might not necessarily be a great positive for digital freedom money. And then finally, with regards to the New York Attorney General calling Ethereum a security, it seems like this is probably a negotiation piece. They probably know they're not going to get that. But in the interim, the mere accusation gives them leverage and power over perhaps certain aspects and certain negotiations. and the art of the deal negotiation. They're going to try and demand some extravagant amount and say, well, we can do this and that. And then after they back off of that, they'll get the regulation that they really were planning to get all along. So that's kind of like maybe my closing thoughts on speculatively on what might be happening here in a broader picture.
Great summary, man. I think I agree with all those points there. They're using this as a further excuse to try to clamp down, regulate, control crypto. Governments aren't in the business of protecting the people. That's the sales pitch, but the goal is control. That's the goal. And those that are making the regulations are controlled by those that gain the most when that control is implemented. We all know how it works. We all know how it works. I imagine everybody in this room knows how it works. And so that's why we're into Monero, because it's pretty much impossible, as far as we know, for them to control and stop it. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a day. This is an epic convo. Thank you so much, everybody. Just shilling Monerotopia.com. Please grab tickets if you don't have them already. We're going to add a virtual conference ticket too at some point. I just didn't want to announce it sooner than later because my goal is to get people down there in person, because it's going to be a lot more fun if you're down there in person. Man, oh man, I hope you could figure out how to make it, maybe go on the dark web, buy some chemicals that will help you cope with the flight. Use your Monero, man. Go make a purchase. To turn it into a fun experience. Just and make your way over there.
Some epic experience. Yeah.
But yeah, everybody else, if you don't already have your tickets, buy them. It's just $99 for general admission. If for some reason you can't afford that, reach out to us. We'll make it work. Basically the local tickets, we're basically giving them away to locals. We're charging $20, but we gave a bunch away to the people in the meetup, and we gave them discount codes to give away to other crypto curious people that are locals, because we want part of this conference isn't just talking amongst ourselves, among those that already believe in these concepts, but we want to bring in noobs. And Mexico City is a beautiful, vibrant place with a lot of young people that are excited about the future, and we want to show them, get them involved in crypto and get them learning, set them on the right path. All right, cheers, everybody. Have a good one. Peace.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers. Bawdy, thank you so much,
cheers.
man, as always. Lip, thank you for always jumping in here. Mano,
Thanks for always letting me come up.
of course.
Speak to you soon.
Adios.
And I'll see you next year for sure.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next week.